And it looks like we should be good there. Alright, what is cooking, folks? If you guys are showing up, we're going to be hopping into some more Defense Task Force. I want to see basically a bit more of what this is all about, and there's a new update. Okay. And that was my fault for not actually including the Kickstarter info in the description, which I just did, so that's good too. Okay. I wonder if they'll let me do that. No, I can't. Alright. Wait. Oh. Yes, it will let me create a Kickstarter card, I believe. All right. Gonna do that. And there we go. No, I kind of want to include that. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's actually pretty good. Great, so that works. I got the card created for it. I have no idea how to actually use these at all, but hopefully that works out. Oh, there we go. Alright, so if anybody clicks the I for information, you'll see the link to the game, which is, or to the Kickstarter for it, which is good. Alright, so this update has not gotten rid of my profile, luckily, so we're going to fire that back up. All of my research should still be intact. And I believe I'm at the max actual level that the game allows currently, because I'm at general, but at the same time, the profile shows that I should be beyond it, and there's no further ranks to gain to go beyond that either, so that's good. Now, they added a few more UI things, looks like everywhere. So I'm going to go through the encyclopedia first. Okay, so of course it's under construction, the game's still in alpha. Ooh, that. I would probably say that this text here needs a different font. It's not unreadable, but having part of the letters omitted and really bold seems really hard to read. But yeah, first blueprint developed by Defense Task Force scientists with a 0 cost of deployment. Perfect for getting out of a tight spot. So yeah, with the early stuff, you can hold off about 16 waves here. After you upgrade stuff, then you want to start moving on to the XD2. And it looks like they're going to add sort of details about everything over here as well. Let me shut off the lizard stuff. There we go. And then of course alright, so you actually get pictures of all of the platforms now before you use them, which is useful information, because while they do give you sort of a overview of the layout when you actually select the blueprint, it's always better to have an actual visual aid. That looks interesting though, this little bridge that they have set up here. Oh, it's not a bridge, they fork either left or right, so you get to choose which one they have to take first. Interesting. And it looks like the majority of them are named after European deities. You got Hercules, who was a demigod, Callisto, Ganymede, Europa, Triton. Alright, so I think that's all that's in the encyclopedia right now. We don't seem to have any other options or any of the creatures. They have a help guide, which looks like it's sort of basic. Oh, is this part of the game story? Alright, so this is basically what the campaign will be based on when it comes out, I believe, but we're not going to see the campaign probably until right before the game launches, which is sometime around July, if they continue to hit their targets, which would be great. But the greed, mismanagement, waste, corruption, the end result was inevitable. It was only a matter of time until we depleted our energy resources. So that explains why everywhere we go, we're digging for energy. With nowhere to turn to and no one to save us, our once great civilization began to collapse. The energy wars, brutal as they were, was only the beginning. Plural, that was should be were. There simply wasn't enough energy to power the technology we had come to depend on. That's actually a really big thing with civilization collapse. If you have a lot of power-reliant technology, once that power source dries up, whatever it may be, you run into a lot of issues. Or any critical resource. Hey, what's going on? That the Chemitotal? That sounds very similar to the Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec deity, but I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Just reading through the story here, because this is the first time I'm seeing anything about it, and I'm actually interested in it. I know this is sort of a sci-fi-esque game, but actually seeing the story now is kind of interesting. Some say the universe decided to give us another chance. Some say it was divine intervention. Astrologers discovered a strange wormhole forming just outside our solar system. We watched in awe as an entire planet emerged from the anomaly. Really? So a whole planet just hops into your solar system and nobody's like, that's weird. Scientists quickly confirmed it as an ocean planet, lifeless but with a breathable atmosphere. Okay, there is no such thing as an ocean planet with a breathable atmosphere and no life. Like, you have to have something that creates an atmosphere, which means that you probably need some sort of ozone layer, or at least some sort of like layer to trap in energy. And if you're trapping gases, you have enough weight to form at least plants. Come on. Alright, we dubbed this planet Delta Athena. Alright, I'm probably going too hard on the science here. But yeah, we thought it was a miracle. Deep space scans revealed an abundance of 0-point energy crystals. Okay, so 0-point energy is actually like a really in-depth science thing that I probably would take way too long to actually get into if I started researching that on stream or like trying to talk through it. But it's an interesting idea. If you guys haven't heard of it, look it up. An infinite source of energy which until now science had deemed impossible. Okay, if there was an infinite amount of 0-point energy, you technically wouldn't need to infinitely mine the crystals. But alright, it would seem our salvation had arrived from the void. Perhaps for the first time in history, the human race united as one. United with a single purpose, we had no choice: harvest the energy from this mysterious planet or perish. That would explain why it reminds me of the Aztec names. Yeah, but I actually have almost no experience with Fantasy Warhammer. I am more familiar with 40k. I don't think I've actually even played any games of Fantasy Warhammer. Have done some 40k though, like actual tabletop stuff. Not just like the computer games. Although some of those are fun too. Okay, where was I? Perhaps for the first time in history, yeah, human race united, blah blah blah. Golden age of humanity over the horizon. We should have known, because I figured that out already. Of course, you definitely should have, if you have scientists. Nothing is ever truly as it appears. Some unknown sentience protects this planet. Okay, so a planet appears through a wormhole and it's guided by some unknown source of intelligence. Like, you would wonder from like just those statements whether or not the actual planet is alive. Like, maybe it's some sort of like organism that tries to eat people or civilizations. Like, how to get through the wormhole in the first place? But silently observing us from the depths of the ocean, it tracked our every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. We were explorers, we came in peace, we intended to do no harm. You intended to mine the planet for resources to prevent the wars that you were fighting on your own planet. I don't know if that could be considered harmless, but I guess if you consider that the planet didn't have any life on it, then it seems harmless. It's like somebody just handed you a bag of money. This planet is uninhabited. We thought wrong. We planned for dangers, but nothing so relentless and ruthless as these monsters. Can you really call them monsters if it was their planet? Like, they would just be animals? That would be like an alien landing on Earth and seeing deer and thinking like they were like werewolves or krakens or something. Actually, krakens are what the enemies are called in this game. We thought our technology was superior. We thought our weapons could hold them back. Little did we know. Little did we know is actually not that great a writing phrase. It usually means that authors haven't figured out where they want things to go, and that's usually why they put it there. It's also supposed to be a bit ominous, but it means that they couldn't write anything that sounded ominous and had a direction at the same time. So they're a destructive force like none we have ever encountered. They come in waves, each stronger than the last. So this is basically outlining how the tower defense part works. Our energy harvesting platforms fell to the waves of Kraken one by one. Our first harvesting platforms were destroyed, one after another. Still, there was hope. Earth had 3 years of usable energy. Also, we noticed the pattern. These beings we named the Kraken. I guess, would it be Kraken? Since there's 2 Ks. Would arise from the shallows of the planet first, younger and weaker creatures. Then, as we held off that first attack, the monsters of the deeper waters would stir. The waves of attacking Kraken never ceased, becoming stronger and stronger, till eventually all our platforms were destroyed. We quickly mobilized our greatest scientific minds, who discovered various defenses against the Kraken. Thus, the Defense Task Force was born. Okay, so that explains where all of your guns and your scientists and basically the creation of all your platforms and weapons comes from. You created a giant, like, Earth-based science task force to make more guns. That's something humans are good at. As commander of our new initiative, your mission is to defend our platforms, holding off the Kraken while we harness as much energy as possible. You shoot the guns, we get the stuff. Alright, we know that every time we build a new platform, eventually the Kraken horde will overwhelm our defenses and the platform will be destroyed. Okay, so that explains why you always need to grab or spend more energy on a new platform, because you have to produce a new one and the Kraken are going to eventually destroy it, so it becomes useless. But if we can buy enough time to harvest more energy than it costs to build the platform, we can build another platform while the surplus energy goes towards powering our precious planet. Alright, so this is the entire game mechanic itself being explained to you. You spend a certain amount of energy preparing to go into a map, you harvest more than you spent, and then the surplus goes to increasing what you are able to deploy, as well as, I guess, powering Earth when the campaign actually comes out. Our hope is that the surplus energy from each mission will be enough to allow us continuing research into either greater defenses or more efficient harvesting techniques. 90% of the surplus will be used to power Earth. 10% is at your disposal. How you designate those resources is up to you. Choose wisely. The fate of our planet rests in your capable hands. So this is actually incorrect. Because I think you get 1%. Well, I guess they do start you with energy, so that kind of matters too. Alright, the fate of our planet rests in your hands. Alright, and then, yeah, this is just a description of the game. And explains how you go in. Yeah, you play a mission, 1% of the energy obtained, and the mission gets added to your global energy reserves, which are for everything. Initially, only 3 towers are unlocked as you gain energy. Unlock additional towers. So we've already done a good amount of that. Can actually get to the game now. The research that I did in the last stream basically got me access to all of the towers, although we're not at a point where they're sort of all upgradable or balanced. So that's really what we need to do now. Geez, it's gonna take forever to get the energy for that sniper. Gonna need like maybe 4 or 5 runs that I don't screw up on. That's the important part. Okay, so far the machine gun tower is really what's been carrying us. I want to try to level up some other stuff to see if they can become useful too. Do I want to dump money on the Tesla yet? It might be good, but I need to get it to level 3 before I can actually consider using it. And this is going to need some energy too. I'm really short of this, and I think an upgrade on the Toxic Tower will be important. How far? Ooh. Oh, this is new too. They now give you a percentage listed on how many of the sectors you've completed, and they list your high score. That's good, because before what you had to do was actually click on the UI to see it. All right, I like that. I like that. Oh, whoops. Wait, did I have to explore this again? This should have all right, so that's a bug. Probably from the update, because I couldn't be 25% complete here if I still need to use energy to explore the area. And I mean, that's probably a bug with the alpha. I don't assume that on final release that'll actually be a thing, but it would probably be a good idea to isolate that just before any future updates happen. Okay, what else? Do I want to drop the energy? Yeah, I might as well unlock all of these. I don't need to actually level any further, so actually going into here won't do much because there's no energy multiplier. All right, so let's go back to the Utopia Basin. Most of the general ideas for the game are in here. These areas, oh, it tells you that it's conquered too. That's new. Do they have anything like that set up for the other areas? 50 plus, 50 plus. Okay, so eventually you're expected to go beyond 50, but the game isn't balanced beyond 50 yet. So I guess let's just hop in Utopia Basin 4. This gives us the most energy density, 1.3, which will basically allow us to gain more energy as we continue playing. They changed the icons that show the locks on the bases that you still need to research. I think the game is only balanced up to the Triton anyway. I haven't tried the Triton too much either. So I have not played the defense grids, but the idea is similar other than the way that you advance. The towers are going to function very similar as well, but the upgrade system in this game is very different. The one thing that Defense Grid does especially differently is Defense Grid has you choose a map, whereas this game, if you followed me when I was reading the story, essentially is more about just entirely a progression system. There are going to be some changes set up eventually that change the way the enemies come out and which ones you run into at some point, but I would say if you enjoy Defense Grid, you'll probably enjoy this game too. But there have been a lot of critiques, or at least a couple that I've run into, that have said that with just the alpha so far, this looks very similar. All right, so I know I can do about, oh, all of my high scores are gone. Or at least it doesn't show here. All right, let's just go on with the zero cost first then. Deploy and start. Also, all right, looks like most of the UI there is about the same. Do we have a hotkey yet? Hotkey is H. Wait, is that H or X? That's X, all right. Yes, I asked them for that when I first started playing this, and it's there. That is great. Oh my gosh. There's really gonna be 100 of those already? Okay, so I think we're gonna start out with, actually, let's do a Toxic Tower. We're going to put a Toxic Tower. I want it there. Here's probably the best place for it. They will basically be poisoned the entire time, and then everybody else is a machine gun. Yeah, we can put one up there too. Okay. So this is a new UI decision, I believe. This was not there previously. Ordered. Okay. Oh, so they actually show you the order that they're coming in, and you can choose to see them. Grouped, it'll just tell you the total of each individual enemy type that's coming. And then if you change it to grouped, or I'm sorry, if you change it to ordered, you see the order that they're actually coming out in, because they come out in batches. And this won't let you see any of the current stats. You still have to click on them. Alright, that's still not too bad. Interesting though. Oh, I just missed the platform. X. Alright, which means I also need another gun there. Okay, so I think we're mostly good because I have enough starting energy to actually just pump all of these out. Normally I'd have to wait a little while, so we can speed this up and start going for some upgrades. I don't think I can upgrade the toxic yet. I haven't purchased that, but I can upgrade the machine guns, and that's definitely what we want. All right, upgrade that. We need a couple of these guys back here for when things actually get there. Hopefully that shouldn't be until around wave 60. Oh, we already got the big guys. Trolls. Oh, well, no, they're not that big. They're just the model that they use. Well, alright, so tower defense games are weird about platforms, and I understand why. Basically, platforms are the way for free-range tower defense games to allow you to choose pathing. Without platforms, generally your build locations are pre-chosen. But with platforms, what they do is they give you the ability to basically, when you get more complex pathing, to choose where you want enemies to go and to basically figure out how to optimize from there. And while some games give you just completely strict pathing, like Dungeon Defenders would be a good example. Dungeon Defenders gives you everything fixed. They may have like some stage switches that let you switch things. Right, but Orcs still has like configurable pathing, but the difference is in Orcs, all of your available pathing space is pre-chosen. Like there's just places that you can place traps and places that you can't, and that's all set up by the devs in advance. So, oh geez, they've already gotten through. Okay, put that back there. This literally always happens when I start talking. I ramble and then I miss stuff. There we go. But yeah, in Orcs, the barricades function pretty much the same, but they're in Orcs originally, enemies could attack your barricades, which didn't really make them function too well other than just dissuading enemies or setting up roadblocks. However, if there were alternate paths that were like really close, they would just go through them. It was kind of weird. In Orcs Must Die Unchained, they work more or less like actual physical walls that enemies can't get through easily. Because of that, I think they're a little bit more interesting, but ultimately there's still some things that other games choose to do, like Sanctum. Sanctum, if you build a barricade, there's nothing going through it. They actually don't call them barricades. They're either tower block bases, which actually function almost exactly like they do here. Right, but the thing about Defense Task Force is though you can build on the X's, some places, like some of the more expansive blueprints will have multiple places to path enemies through specific junctions. So you can have them go like say north, south, or I'm sorry, north, east, or west if they come in from the south. And it's not quite the same idea in something like Orcs Must Die, where you also already have like a pre-existing map and then you sort of build on top of the map. Oh geez, these guys are getting through, and I should have upgraded this a while ago. All right. Is this going to kill them? Hopefully. All right, the new gun should hopefully do something, and all right, they're gonna die. Good. So you could say in Orcs, it's similar to having your tower bases already built, but you having to spend more coin on getting your traps put together. And to be fair, I think there's room in tower defense games for both. Like, I do enjoy games that do each of those. Right, but depending on like your tower strategy, like in some maps you want them to go around like really like constricted pathing, and actually when I use the second platform, there's still this like row around here, but I actually block off the area up here and don't use this at all and let them path through it, and that's simply because I think it's a better path. Right. But the thing here is, unlike a lot of games, like towers don't have, they don't pierce each other. The tower basements, they block any line of sight for the majority of towers in the game. So if you do not have the ability to fire through them easily, you can't actually fire through them at all. Like if I were to place a machine gun tower right here, anything that's in front of this front row would not be able to get hit by it. So that forces me to both change the type of tower that I'm using. Oh, hold shift to keep placing. Oh, wow. So they added a few usability features here. Actually, I should probably sell this guy and then put a slow tower right here. And then back here, ooh, these are enemies that they don't have artwork for yet. I want to get out a missile. Okay. Oh, cool. So they do that now. When you go over upgrade, it shows you the difference by changing everything purple. So that's actually a really good UI decision. I didn't know that they implemented that already. Man, these guys they're working fast. I believe the technical dev team that does like the programming and stuff for this game is made up of 2 people doing it part-time. So that's actually pretty good. How's it going, Kaminiak? And Day, yes, the orcs must die. Oh, they fixed the missile count too. Cool. Alright, that's upgraded. That doesn't have an upgrade. Neither does this. That should be tier 3. This one is also not upgraded and can be. These missiles can go up. Like, I think my favorite thing about the original Sanctum game is how customizable the pathing is. Well, it depends on how freeform the game is. Again, I don't know if you've played the original Sanctum, but a lot of the maps there are extremely open. Like, you can build basically any kind of maze or pathing you want, and the space that you don't use turns into the path that the enemies walk through. The space that you do use, you can place towers on. And because of that, you can either make like a really long path with a lot of really strong towers, or you can just set up towers so that you're bombarding the enemies with all kinds of crazy damage before they get anywhere. And the choice is up to you. You can do it however you want. And because there's both like a regular, like structured survival map or survival mission type, and then also an endless one, You get to experiment with both speed builds that'll do things really quickly, and ooh, I think this is pretty much it for this. Not gonna get much beyond. Probably should have built some more machine guns and leveled them up more. Forgot, I didn't even see how much energy I got. 459. Not bad. I made back pretty much everything that I lost from the update, which is pretty nice. Okay. Now, I have no idea why, but this seems to have started losing frames again. Weird. Okay. Maybe whatever settings I have don't really like Unity. Alright, so yeah, we're gonna go back here. And head into Sector 4 again. Hey, what's going on, TK? Alright, so let's say I'm going with the Progenitor this time, because I can definitely get a bit farther than that. Alright, so looks like we start off at night. Here, like in this situation, we do have X's over here, same as with the first path, but I can choose to block over here rather than use these, and that offers me the ability to let these towers attack both front and back. And because of that, I don't get to build anything over here, which is okay. I don't think I have an upgrade for the Tesla yet, so I guess the best thing that we could do here is just put out a starting machine gun. Now they did change the cost. Oh gosh. Alright, we're just gonna do all of that now. Okay, that should actually be good to start. Crap, I forgot what I was saying. Well, I know that this, like, being able to block this area off like this, while it invalidates the spaces that they'll path through, generally having a longer path and giving your towers more time to hit their targets is beneficial, generally. Don't have the scratch for that, do now? Okay. So I think a tier 2 tower should carry me into like the early teens. Getting about 3 should allow me to push into like close to 20. But yeah, games that just give you, or I should say that don't require you to place any sort of pathing items, which Orcs doesn't. Orcs Must Die allows you to place traps pretty much anywhere you want, and you don't need barricades. So the game is built in Unity, so if you have a system that can run Unity games well, my game, I'm sorry, let me stop rambling. My computer runs this very well. This game isn't free to play. It's going to be a full purchase game, or a full price game that will be released sometime in July, according to Kickstarter. Beta should be 4 to 6 weeks before game launch, according to the Kickstarter, which would place it sometime around mid-May. Oh crap, not paying attention. Upgrade. Alright. After we get about 4 of these, we can start saving up to try to get a tier 3 one. Yeah, I don't think the alpha is intended to be public. The developers were looking for some feedback for the game and to see how it felt in the hands of people that are playing it. And this patch specifically is sort of the culmination of the initial waves of feedback that they got. So we got a hotkey for the base, which didn't exist before. The fact that this is listed as the normal basement also implies that there are probably some sort of special ones later on. And I'm not 100% sure about that. There could be. But that was an interesting idea that Rock Jester said on Twitch. Like, it could be that later on they have bases that actually perform different tasks for the towers, like making them stronger or creating effects on the monsters that path near them. That's also part of the reason why having the option to build them could be important. Because then it just doesn't become a base that you place a tower on. It could serve additional purposes. Oh wow, they really did lower the cost of these a lot. The Space Town Tower is still 1,000, which is okay. It's technically one of the most important towers in the game, if not the most important. Fire Tower costs less. Missile Tower is about the same. Cannon's the same. Okay, but most of these towers cost way less than they used to. That's good. Oh, you know what? I could actually sell this and then place this here. That'll prevent the shields from recharging as much. That's kind of important. Alright, and then back here, we put up a slow. Right, I think the alpha is the alpha this game. The alpha for this game is really put out primarily to make sure that you guys are aware that it exists, and also as kind of a push for the Kickstarter. If you guys haven't checked out the Kickstarter for the game, there's some info about it in the description. If you hit the little eye, if you hover over the YouTube video with your mouse, it will also have a card that links there. It's the second one. It should show one of the pieces of background art and Kickstarter.com in it. That'll take you directly there, and you can read up about it as well as see the video that the devs have done about the game and its creation. Even so, with things the way they are, that means that they expect to be able to take the feedback that they have and implement a lot of the other features for the game within the next 3 months or so before they actually go to beta. So that's going to be interesting to see it happen. Just because 3 months of dev time, even full time, is pretty tough. But for a team of 2 doing it part-time, that makes it even rougher. Alright, these seem to be doing pretty well, and I haven't even gotten all of them upgraded yet, which is great. I'm gonna have to place at least one more toxic tower back here just to make sure I have good coverage of it. That should make sure that they never get their shields back. And I guess I should start lining these up too. Eventually I'm gonna need to place things there. So if I change this to grouped, what does this look like? Alright, this is one of the special enemies. I'm not sure what they do. Or no, it's just something that they don't have art for. These special enemies I don't think show up until wave 40? This one is not upgraded yet. But yeah, I think the majority of what this alpha version is showing off is the new UI changes, which I am 100% behind. Like, just being able to see what you're running up against. I mean, you can't see stats for these, and Both. So when I finish this, I'll actually go back to the blueprints so you can see them for a moment. As far as the map layout goes, that's part of what I was looking at in the encyclopedia originally. Like you can see that these X's are where you normally are able to place the tower bases, and they determine the enemy pathing as well as where you can place your towers. Well, this is only the second blueprint that's available to you, so this is still relatively early in the game. This is supposed to be able to get you through what I'm guessing is sort of the second major area before you start to require going into the third and fourth blueprint, at which point I believe the game will be changed to balance for those. I'm not sure if that's going to happen within the alpha or if that's something that they're going to save for the beta, but they've been pushing the balance in the game pretty steadily since the alpha was released about 2 weeks ago. So originally the game was only balanced up to about wave 40, then they went through 50, and then I think they're up to 52 now. So up to wave 52, like, the enemies are pretty much set up so that they're able to be taken out pretty efficiently with at least this platform, meaning that you can clear the first area and get into the second one, somewhat as you would when the game is over. Or not over, but when the game is released. Jeez, I could use words, I promise. Alright, so back here, now that we can do this. Oh, they did lower the damage a bit on the sniper. That's okay. I'm guessing that the upgrades for it send it, yeah, the upgrades still send it back up to where it was before. But they increased the upgrade cost. You know what, that's okay. Because it still costs about the same energy, but it's useful earlier. So the sniper's special because it can fire through other towers. Normally most towers would have their shots blocked. These guys can fire through them with no problem. And because I can upgrade them to tier 2, I will be doing that as soon as I get the opportunity. And their range gets ridiculous. You can see it as part of the yellow circle. This guy back here can fire at them as soon as they are basically on the platform. And that's only at level 2. I'm wondering what'll happen when they get to 3. They'll probably cost an arm and a leg though. And maybe a few extra limbs and organs. I think they're the most expensive tower in the game. With extreme range, they kind of should be though. Oh, wait, I didn't even realize that. If you click on these with the left click, they have a short tower description now, which is another thing that I kind of wanted in the game, and it's there. That is such a good thing. Actually, I should sell this one and make this another space-time tower, because that's important. Gonna need to keep those slows up to make sure that I don't have any serious issues with the fast ones when they show up. Okay. Alright, so it looks like the towers are mostly doing a really good job of just keeping everything out. Let's go ahead and upgrade this now since we have the energy for it. I think I'm going to put one machine gun back here, and then I'll put another sniper up here and here since they'll be able to shoot things. I'm going to change their priority though to shoot the first enemy. That should make it so that whenever anything starts to get close to this, they will fire at it. And then we'll put a flamethrower back here so that we don't have... Ooh, they buffed the base damage on the flamethrower. I like that too. They increased the cost by 75, which is the amount that they took off of this. So this one doubles for triple the cost. I guess that's alright. Boost doesn't seem as big as some of the other things, but doesn't always have to be. Alright, boosting these would make them much more useful. So let's do that. We should probably do this one first. Alright, they're not getting too far, which is good, but they are getting farther. Eventually they're going to be able to breach this, probably within the next few waves. Those raptors are kind of what I was worried about. They're really fast. Ooh, that's a lot of them. Yep, that's me losing, I think, right here. Absolutely lost. Okay. That just looks like a bunch of fluttering nightmares. Okay, so that was actually a pretty good amount of energy. I can upgrade a few things. But, well, let's do the upgrades first. Do I need more energy? Always need more energy. I don't want to spend all my energy on that, though. Things that we want that we can get now include, not that. We can try to get the tier 2 toxic tower. So there's other mechanics in the game to spend energy on, like boosting the towers individually with different abilities mid-game that I haven't actually gotten into yet. These cost additional energy on top of building the towers, and I think it'll become more of a bigger aspect of it as you get into the later parts of the game. I'm really not there yet. Like, I've only put a single point into the damage boost here, and based on the boost from level 1 to 2, and this going from a 5% to a 55% boost, I think that might be a pretty significant amount. This game doesn't appear to be something where you're going to be setting up like any sort of minions or, you know, counter creeps. So I doubt you'll be summoning soldiers or anything. It's more about just the towers themselves. Looks like we can get a tier 3 cannon. Cannon isn't my favorite tower though. So we're always going to be using the time space tower. I think it's not a bad idea to go ahead and upgrade that. That adds slowdown duration to 3 seconds, increases the slow to 50%, and the range gets larger. That is a pretty solid choice overall. No idea what it's actually going to cost though. That's the one thing that I don't think they have done yet. They could include an upgrade cost or a normal cost just here. Like, actually what I would probably like to see as far as the energy cost shown on the skill screen or the research screen, whatever you want to call it, is you could include the base cost of the tower somewhere here. Then have a total cost for the up to, showing the base cost plus the upgrade cost, and then the upgrade cost for this particular level. Or actually, they could list them all individually, like base cost, upgrade, tier 2 upgrade, and tier 3 upgrade, all listed in the up to, so that players kind of understood what the energy cost was for the towers, just so that you could have it all listed in like one nice, easy to read place. Alright, but we're going to need some more energy, but the space-time tower is now going to be more effective. We need 3 grand for that last upgrade. Question is it possible to get that with what we have in the game now? Alright, so let's see. This one's... alright, so the highest wave reach doesn't seem to be recorded at all still for the individual platforms. Oh, I can purchase the Europa now. This one costs 75 to deploy. This one costs probably a ton. 100. That's not too bad. Alright, but so you can see, TK, to your point before, you can see sort of the base layout of the platforms here, but one of the things that they don't show you is where the towers are actually able to be placed. And with this update, they added the encyclopedia, which gives you a screenshot of all of the different bases, and you can see as you get to like the larger bases like the XT4, the Europa, how you have all of these blue X's along the pathing lines that essentially allow you to choose where you want the enemies to be able to go. So depending exactly on how you path them, you should actually... This actually seems pretty weird, because it looks like you could probably have them go to the right, or you could have them go to the left, but you can't do both. Well, no, you wouldn't be able to do both no matter what, but that means that all of these would have to be like super long range towers, or all of these would have to be. I don't know, that'll be an interesting blueprint to try out, because then you'd have like a mix of towers that are like short range and constantly in effect, and then a bunch of towers that are long range and kind of just hailing death from the other side of the platform. But I guess we'll get to that one after I start using the Triton more, because I've only used that a handful of times. But yeah, all of these red X's that you, or I'm sorry, blue X's that you have in the pathing lines can basically determine where you will let the monsters go. And then there's other ones that are built like over water or non-pathable space that just give you additional towers that you can use to murder whatever is coming your way. So it's really good, and it does give you some options for how you want the pathing to look later on in the game. And I think that it'll probably lead to a lot of experimentation, especially with more people getting their hands on there and trying to push for further and higher wave numbers. But the farthest I've been able to get personally so far is 73. Question is, do I want to try the Europa now? Okay, so winning is actually explained, I think, in the, not in the encyclopedia, and the help guide, the storyline. No, not in the storyline, the overview. Initially only, no, where is it? Yeah, the objective is to make more energy than the deployment cost of the platform. So the cost of your platforms is listed pretty clearly when you're selecting them. You can see them when you click them, and the deployment cost for the zero cost is obviously 0. This is your cheap platform and it's not going to take you too far, but since it costs 0 cost to deploy, you are always going to be gaining energy by using this platform. No matter how far you get, you bank something. And that's kind of the point. You always want to be progressing when you're doing that, and this will let you do it. Once you get more comfortable with your buildings and you sort of know how the enemies will path, you can experiment with the other platforms. And you'll notice that with the first 3 platforms, and even the 4th one, they're essentially building off of the previous platform. So you still understand what can happen with these platforms after you've gotten familiar with the previous one, and then you just add a couple more sections on it, and then a few more, until you have a larger platform capable of dealing more damage, which ultimately means that you get to extract more energy. Because the energy of each individual minion increases over time, you actually extract much more energy just going a couple more waves with the larger platforms than you do if you were to just start over again. And because of that, it becomes more and more lucrative to purchase the heavier platforms and to just throw out more towers. So that's kind of where that is. Oh wow, they actually have a slider, so you can increase the size of the platforms that you see. That's actually pretty good. So yeah, winning is just a matter of lasting long enough to make back the energy cost. So I haven't played with the Triton today. I'm going to try that, and then after we do the Triton, I'm going to move on to the Europa and give that a shot. We also have that tier 2 slow now, and I haven't actually worked out how I wanted to see things path here. I know I want to do that. Alright, creatures are starting. I'm guessing for me, I probably want the slow here. Okay. The important thing with this, though, is because of the way that the enemies will be pathing, I can't count on them to constantly stay under attack from these towers. I actually am going to have to replace this one with a toxic relatively early. Let's go ahead and just speed this up. I'm not going to get too far from here. And that's mainly because the toxic will keep the shields from going up. So after I start adding towers that deal either splash damage or snipe the larger ones, they won't be regenerating too much shield. And shield is actually a pretty big part of how things work at the moment. Actually, it doesn't look like the shield values are constant anymore. That's interesting. Previously, the shields were always about 1/3 of the enemy HP. It looks like right now they're about 25%. That could change per enemy. I'm not sure if they've implemented anything like that yet, but that would be interesting. Let's sell you and get that toxic out now. Okay, so here, we don't want to actually have the slow out. We can upgrade this first. Alright, and we're out of energy, so let's go ahead and start gathering more, speed things up. So yeah, this game doesn't force you to play outside of your comfort zone, but if you want to get more efficient and earn more, you can. Hey, what's going on? And I am... Is that an umlaut over the A? I apologize. We don't use that too often where I'm from. But yeah, what's happening, Vitor? I am just trying to show this off and learn a bit more about the changes that have happened with the most recent alpha update. It looks like we got a lot of new UI stuff. You can see the enemy listing at the top, which you can change to the order that they're coming in on, as well as a group that shows you everything that's going to be showing up in the near future. What else do I want to build here, though? I'm about to start getting overrun. They have kept the build curve pretty strong, and one of the things that I like that they did is they have lowered the actual cost of the majority of the towers in the beginning of the game, except for the Space-Time Tower, because it's really supposed to be a sort of late game tower anyway, and that's fine. I actually should have sold this and placed the Space-Time Tower. So we have an early Space-Time Tower. We are going to need some more damage over here, though. Okay, this is working out a little bit better than I expected. Okay, so I'm not sure if I should actually throw up another Space-Time Tower here. It has a bit more range, and it'll be slowed for about another second. I should. I don't want to do it yet, though. It'll be a bit too expensive. I need to make sure I'm keeping the damage up. So I was able to push 73 with just the XT2. That means that, theoretically, the XT3, which I'm playing with now, should be able to get farther, but I'm not sure how much farther. I haven't actually pushed this to the limit yet, and I'm going to try to figure out how exactly to do that. Of course, the only tier 3 gun that I have right now is the machine gun tower. So part of that is going to be seeing how much more energy we can get off of this. And we're already above the 75 energy cost of the XT3, so everything that we gain right now is pretty much going to be bank. And they're already getting around, which means I need more towers or more upgrades pretty much immediately. If I can take these guys out, that slow is really a good idea. I wasn't expecting it to be that good an idea, but it works. Alright, so there's this weird bug with the aiming of some of the towers. If an enemy dies, they keep firing for like a split second, and they just look in some random direction. So they start firing like over here. You can see some of the bullets fly off. I have it sped up, so it's kind of hard to see it. But I wonder what actually causes that to happen. Does it only happen when the speed is up, or will it happen when you don't have the speed up as well? It doesn't happen that often though. Hey, thanks Carlos. I will definitely keep going. I have some other stuff that I want to finish up for orcs, which will allow me to start the overviews for Brass and Elin, and then I actually have to look at that poll that everybody was voting on. I believe that Oziel and Temper won, so those would be the next characters that I start working on. So normally in a tower defense game, the longest path would 100% be the best way to win. Here, I think the mechanics from the enemies will basically determine the best way to defeat them. Like there are enemies with special abilities that show up after wave 40, and they have the ability to both, well, to either make enemies invisible, which prevents your towers from targeting them at all until they show up again, unless they get hit with like an area attack like the flamethrower, the toxic, or the missile explosion. But also there's a healer, so you need to make sure that your towers are attempting to take out the healer, or at the very least they're picking off targets so that they don't get healed. That actually gets a bit tricky. And just put some snipers in the back. And that means that regardless of how your path is set up, what will happen is the way that you play is going to largely be to figure out what the best ordering is along your path for the towers that you have to place. And then from there, you can sort of elongate the path. But as the path grows, the placement of your towers needs to sort of grow with it in an optimal way. So like I said before, there's probably going to be a good amount of experimentation with just figuring out where to place your towers and what's the best way to get them there. But also because of the fact that the game has a progression system that enables you to upgrade towers on an individual basis rather than just giving you, like, say, all of your towers at tier 3 at once. That's what's making me play a lot of the machine gun towers right now. Right, there's no other tower that I have that can really put out as much damage as they can, and because of that, they actually are very well, they perform very well for me. Now, when I get other towers up to tier 3 and they get other research bonuses, then I can sort of mix other towers in and see how well they perform overall in terms of, say, damage. Okay, so I need a couple more things here. First, we're going to put another toxic tower. That should keep the shields from coming back, and I missed like a ton of machine gun upgrades that should have happened already. That one's already tier 3, this one can go up, and then one more. So yeah, I think there's going to be, especially as you start pushing into the higher waves, like I haven't seen beyond 73 yet, but as the number of special enemies with their powers and abilities that can basically screw over your turret, your tower builds, you're going to want to optimize for those too. And until you see them and understand what they do, you actually won't be able to prepare for them. So there's a lot of interesting moments that should happen up as you progress through the game, just upon seeing new enemy types and what they can or can't do. What is that? Okay, so we're at wave 40 now, and these guys just got some sort of new aura. I don't know what that aura does. Pestilence? That's what the enemies are called. Oh! Are these spawned enemies? Or do they have some sort of buff? Alright, those are zippers. So I don't know what the light blue guys have on them. They're all called pestilence. Attack delay, damage, energy on kill, shield health. They may just be like an upgraded form of the regular enemies. Because we have the exterminators, they're the high health guys. Okay, so they have about 50% of their health as shields, which is what I'm used to seeing. And then, oh, can I click anybody else? The zippers, they also have about 50%. So yeah, that ratio has stayed the same. I was wrong before. Gorgons. I think those are new. They look like they're carrying tiny hammers. Oh, they're like little white bears. They're probably going to change. I think that's a placeholder icon for them. Ooh, I have a lot of unspent energy. Let me fix that. Okay, so these guys are slowed to about where? Alright, that slow ends at the edge of this tower. This one could basically span that. Can I upgrade this yet? How much does it cost? 2 grand. Do it. Alright, so that slows them an extra 10%, which is going to be very nice. Alright, add another slow there. And now we're going to need to start adding more damage. I should probably add a set of towers here that forces the enemy to go around this full length. The issue here, though, is... Alright, that is going to be okay for now. But we'll need to make sure that they have longer than 2 seconds to pad through this area. So we need something else that will basically make sure that they stay under fire so that their shields are not regenerating. That would either have to be another toxic tower here. That overlap is like way too close though. I'll do it. You are correct. 10% and 1 more second of slow. Okay, there's another slow there. Now what I need to start doing is building more damage over here. Since we know the enemies will basically be poisoned the entire time they're walking through the back area here, I can just put up additional towers that will basically take them out. Now, what I would eventually, what I'll like is some sort of energy tower back here, because they won't really have any issues firing through the other towers. Since I don't have that yet, what I'm going to do is place the missiles. Because the missiles can fly through the air, and they should basically still be able to hit groups and do well at that. They're also set up to hit the strongest enemies, which should help out a bit. Okay, missile damage has pretty much stayed the same too. That's good, because their cost didn't change. That's right. Alright, and the raptors are not getting through easily, which is very good. The exterminators, on the other hand, are definitely getting through. But that's okay, because I have room for a lot more damage over here. We can actually make this a sniper. Alright, and that said, we can actually get... That actually may not be the best location for a minigun. Let me change this to random so that it actually shoots something that it can fire at. Alright, and we're starting to run into problems already. There's far too many enemies getting through. So back here, I'm just going to go all snipers. Of course, that ate up a ton of cost of energy. They're going to take out a lot of the heavy enemies before they get too far, though. but I'm about to be overrun. And the random doesn't even fix this. Okay. So then, what do I do about that? These aren't going to work out. I definitely need something back here. Tower line of sight actually makes a really big deal with the placing of your towers, as I'm definitely finding right here. There's a lot of towers that I'm placing back here that effectively aren't doing well because of the fact that their line of sight is obscured and just not working. That doesn't affect the missiles too much because they fly overhead, or the snipers, but trying to place additional machine guns actually becomes a problem. And so that's a situation, again, where I said I'd probably want to start using some form of energy weapon, but I don't have any of those leveled up yet. The guy back there seemed to die, which is good. Ooh, I should probably... Oh, both of those are tier 2 already. Okay. Those are snipers. I could actually do this and this. And we can get some more missiles out. No, don't have the energy for them. Okay, let's just let everything run. But what starts happening is as the forward line moves up a bit, most of your stronger enemies tend to be in the middle, and the missiles start blowing everything up from the center outwards, which is actually really good. They function sort of like mortars. They are starting to get through though. They're starting to get through really hard. Is there anything else I can actually do to slow them down though? This one is not level 3 yet. Probably should have upgraded that a while ago. Like that. This is already tier 2. Yeah, I think the biggest issue for me here is just that there's a lot of these towers that I can't get to tier 3 even if I wanted to. And because the tier 3 boost is so huge, they actually just don't produce enough damage. Like, I could get farther just placing machine guns and they would cost less. And that's it right there. I'm going to lose around wave 65, 66. Not too shabby. Okay. That's the case, and the machine guns really are the only thing that works right now. One thing that I want to try is I want to see what getting a second damage upgrade is going to do. Right now, I can upgrade these once. Ooh, was it the 55 and then 105%? I want to see what that actually does in a mission, and like I said before, we're going to go ahead and pop the Europa in now. See what that does. Right. So we have two options here. We can either have everything go down this way, or we can have them all path over to the left through here and through here, just like we did before, but then have all of these to essentially be long-range towers. I'm going to try the left path first, just because it's kind of familiar. And that means we get 2 starting towers now, which is great. because I can toss a space time here. That was actually really expensive. I don't know if I should have done that early, but because I have the energy to do it, why not give it a shot? That only works at all. It may not even work. Let's go ahead and stop that. Yeah, that was probably a bad move. But I can't afford to sell the space time because I lose 25% of that energy. I probably would have been better off placing a flamethrower first. Yep, and this is how you lose your energy. Now the good thing is there's actually like a damage reflection on your core. So eventually the weaker enemies can kill themselves without just you getting blown up. And each blueprint gives you higher and higher extractor health. So you actually get to survive some of the earlier waves, basically through brute force, if nothing else. Okay, so we got these built. We can start trying for an upgrade. And actually, because the base cost of quite a few of these have changed, this build order may not actually be the most lucrative thing anymore. Now, of course, the upgrade costs have basically remained constant. This is actually not going nearly as well as I thought because of the slow. Alright, note to self, don't build a slow before wave 20 anymore. Because they are running through my extractor. As long as I make the energy back, I should be alright. And I'm about halfway there. Yep. Just over it. So the thing is, this is not even an optimal location for a slow. I should have placed it somewhere around, like maybe in the middle here, because this entire like section back here is not getting used. Okay, now my goal is to sort of get a tier 3 machine gun sometime before wave 21, if possible. It might happen on 21 or just after it, which means I've overspent on the space time again, which is quite likely the case. Okay, we're almost there. We may actually get it before 21. Yep, one more kill. There we go. Alright, tier 3 tower. That's going to carry us for a bit. Now, this is sort of where we start to experiment. Our energy is made back, which is good. So now it's really just about what we can earn. So we know for a fact that snipers in the back are not too bad. What they're going to do is they're basically just there to pick off the heaviest HP targets. They do a really good amount of starting damage. Actually, how much do they do now? little bit under 2.5 a second, like maybe 2.4. It's 19.6 divided by 8. And we're about to have another tier 3 here. There we go. Alright, so those are going to hold us for quite some time. The cannon is basically a weaker version of the sniper. Fires 7.7 every 4 seconds and doesn't have quite the range, but it gets the ability to stun and it's cheaper significantly. Ooh, the cannon cost might need to go down a bit with the sniper outclassing it that much. It's much less expensive to upgrade too though, so that could factor into just like how you decide to build things overall. Alright, so with the slow here, let's go ahead and get a toxic tower up here. And we could probably put another slow here. So things are going to be around for a while. Oh, with this, we actually get some back space here. And we didn't have these extra panels over here before. We had just this one. So that gives us some more space to do a couple more like long range turrets on the outside, but the enemies will have the ability to walk into. Most of our super long range stuff we should probably put over here. For instance, if we just wanted to toss up some more snipers, that will be a thing. Of course, we should make sure that we get all these to tier 3 first, so let me not waste too much energy doing that. Okay. So, other than that horrible start, which you guys can yell at me for because it's not the first time I've even done that, I think we should be okay now. Things aren't even getting that far, and when they do, they're probably going to die pretty hard. I'm focusing mainly on machine guns. That's most of what'll go over here. And of course we need to block them into going that way. And once we get all of these up to tier 3, we should actually be sitting pretty good into the mid-40s. Alright, what else do we have? 3 more guns up here? Okay. Goal is really just to not let anything... Oh, there it goes, shooting in the wrong direction again. Not to let anything really get too much farther than this front line at the moment. Generally what I like to do is try to build a really strong front line and then extend the line with other powerful turrets going around. So we can put a slow over here, maybe back here. No, after I upgrade it, it'll cover that. Actually, no, that wouldn't be a bad spot. Let's get that done now. Oh wait, I already had a slow there. I'm silly. No, that's a talk. Yeah, that is. Alright. Screwing up. This slow needs to be upgraded. That slow is upgraded. We need a gun here. Okay, so back here, we actually have space for many more snipers. And they'll be able to hit the majority of things after they start pathing over here. So here, I think eventually would be good places for missiles. Anything that we're missing tier 3 on? Yes, this one. Okay, so that is our first row. Basically completely buffed. We can do that here as well. We don't want to do that in this corner though. Maybe with the front two here. But not with these, actually this one can be a gun too. But this one should probably be something a bit different. We can make this probably another sniper or missiles. Missiles would not be bad. Alright, but now we need to start upgrading these. And eventually the energy should be rolling in pretty heavy. Because these guys are going to start giving out a lot of it. What are we looking at now? About 40 energy per kill on the heavier guys, 8 for the small ones. Yeah, they're giving it up pretty quick. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about here is the actual additional tech. So, oh, it maintains the same energy cost. I don't think that's a good idea. This costs the same amount of energy as it does during the research. So by putting another 1,000 energy in this, I can get a 50% increase in damage. Oh, they've already broken through. Okay. They're going to start doing a lot of damage here too. Yep, I lost. Okay. That's actually pretty interesting. Okay. I wasn't sure what the actual cost was going to be for the researched upgrades for these. And it looks like these upgrades actually become more energy efficient as you continue. Because the first upgrade here costs 500 energy. It only gives you a 5% increase, which is like 1 point of damage. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But the second upgrade, which costs you 534, it gives you a 50% increase on the base tower damage, which is about what, 15 point. Oh, you can't even see that anywhere. It's I think 15.3 or 15.2. So that's a really big increase for about another 1,000. That's close to what tier 2 machine gun tower would cost, it's 750. If you include the base, it's 790. So for slightly more than a tier 2 machine gun, you basically get a tier 2 machine gun and a half. And it looks like the increases are linear, so they probably die off after that. This is probably part of the game that's really not balanced yet. The question is, if I go back in and I do that without using the snipers, how much farther will I get? Like, not building extra turrets is probably one of the things that I need to get away from doing, that I probably do too often in this game. I mean, I know it's not like final balance or anything, but let's see if we can actually get this started without that horrible start that I did before. A better start would be using the flamethrower. And a machine gun. And about right here is where we can build the time space tower once we have the energy for it. We are going to want to have a lot of machine guns over here besides it though. Alright, we can just speed that up now. I like playing it fast. Most of these games would actually take close to an hour, and they've only been taking about 20 minutes. So the increased speed definitely does a lot for you if you can deal with it. Of course, since you can freely turn the speed up and down, as long as you're really comfortable with what you've built so far, you can do pretty much whatever you want. Also, increasing your starting energy is extremely helpful. I cannot say that enough. You only start with 1,000 when the game first begins. In the original alpha, it was only 750, so things were super tight. You pretty much could only get away with building machine guns in the beginning of the game. To combat that, they increased the starting energy to a grand, and also with this patch have lowered the cost of the turrets themselves to start, which I am very happy they did. Okay, actually I'm going to go for another upgrade before I get that slow tower going. Actually, I may go for a tier 3 tower before I even put the slow up. So, quick buzz. I am planning on finishing the runs with Brass and Elan and Orcs Must Die this week, and then I'll start working on the overview videos. Those tend to take me a good amount of time to edit, and the editing in combination with the rendering will make it pretty hard for me to get other videos out in the short term. What that means is that I will probably start streaming a bit during that editing process. Well, not like literally while editing, but some of the games that I'll be playing, just so that, you know, the channel has content going, because YouTube likes that. It'll make sure that like it's still being recommended and you guys see the stuff. Oh, slow that down. Okay, more upgrades. But it'll probably be close to this time, although I'll probably be not coming off of being sick, so I'll be streaming a little bit longer than I plan on doing it tonight. Alright, so I'm going to try to be conservative with the way that I'm building things. I'm only going to build up to towers that I can afford and that will be effective. Learning out how to build out on larger platforms does become tricky, because early tower costs are cheaper, but they're very useless by the time your build contains more than a handful of tier 3 towers. You pretty much need to be building tier 3 towers whenever you put a new one up at that point. And you can't really spam platforms either, because doing so will basically prevent you from being able to build meaningful towers. Okay, there we go. That is our first tier 3. So my question with this flame tower is going to basically be, as soon as they step out of it, how long does it take their shields to start restoring? If they don't, because they're getting fired on. Okay. Well, I guess I really won't be able to see that until I get to the point where there's just a ton of enemies. Alright, let's upgrade you. And you need to be upgraded too. Back to the speed. The boost. Alright, so first the global boosts are not at all like balanced right now. Like one of the first boosts that you get is something like, I think 2%, and then it goes up to 7, and then 14. So I get an additional 25 energy or so for the first upgrade. Then I got 50, and then I got 75. So it doesn't seem like it's made to be linear, but I don't think they want it to like double every time you purchase it again either. I'll have to actually look at what the next upgrade will offer me, because I think I'll probably have the energy to get it after I finish this map, although I would probably want to grab some more extractor capacity just to gain more energy per map completed to speed up the progression. Because as you can see, if you were looking at the number on the damage upgrades for the machine gun turret, those damage upgrades go up to 99, which means you can eventually dump a lot of energy into these machine guns and they turn into ridiculous beasts of destruction. Of course, you can probably do the same with most of the other damage turrets, but I haven't seen quite how strong they become yet. And I'm not sure if the damage is going to be equivalent gains across all of the towers or if there's specific ones. But that's part of, you know, what you got to do when you're testing alphas. Just look at how things work and give feedback on them. That's a part of the reason why I don't use the cheats menu. There's this menu over here, which is, why is it only half on the screen? Hold on one moment. Why? You know what? This resolution isn't correct because it's windowed. That's weird. Alright. Key? What happens if can I change it back? Wait, it doesn't change it back when I select it? Okay, that one kept it. Why doesn't it select the 60 hertz? Alright, so I guess that's just another UI bug. I'm going to go to the 16. Oh, the 16:2 still removes the cheat menu. That's so weird. Alright, so we're going to go to... Yeah, there we go. You guys should still be able to see everything. The show cheats menu is now there, and yeah, I could increase the amount of energy I've gained or the amount of energy I haven't gained and the max wave reached in the mission so far. However, once you do that, it completely changes the it should completely change the way the enemies spawn, if I understand correctly. The enemies don't actually just spawn completely predetermined. Their waves and the types are slightly randomized, and that randomization is based on the amount of energy that you have gained so far. So basically, if more heavy enemies spawn and you manage to kill them, you get more energy and more enemies can spawn in faster and stronger. Yeah, I forgot, the game, I don't know if I've mentioned this since I've been playing today, but the game isn't like completely like predetermined. There are going to be just like random procedurally generated groups of enemies, including the special monsters that will spawn once you get to wave 40. But we'll take a look at the global upgrades once this match is over. This is the last one I can upgrade. No, it is not. I'm missing one more, this one. You can only tell by really looking at the back and seeing if they have this little light on top like the other ones do. I'm missing this one too. Okay, so there's two more. That's a situation where the flamethrower is probably amazing, but it still feels kind of weak. Like, I'm pretty sure the flamethrower becomes amazing late game because of how packed the enemy units become. Like when I was in the mid 60s and everything was kind of pathing around here, you could see like basically 20 or 30 enemies just grouped within the flamethrower's range. Alright, there's one, and then we're just waiting on... Did I upgrade the flamethrower already? Yes, I have. Okay. So, let us begin doing a couple of other things now. We have the slow tower here. That is also upgraded now. So enemies are even slower. We can put the toxic here. How far does the other slow reach? Oh, quite far. So this is where I think I'll put the next slow tower. Once this is leveled up, like this, they'll have a bit of overlap, which is fine. Alright, and then here, I would want something like, I guess I'll build a sniper. The snipers, I know I have at least the level 2 option. That's true that AoE towers usually become really strong, but at the same time, they don't do a lot of damage per target, and they're still affected by line of sight, or at least the flame tower is. The toxic one is not, but you cannot poison an enemy twice. So I think that puts the toxic tower and the flamethrower in a pretty unique situation. Actually, let's put another flamethrower here. Upgrade that. That's already upgraded. I can't upgrade the toxic tower yet. That's something that I will need to work on. Hey, what's going on, K-Man? How are you doing this evening? Or at least this evening for me. Got a few upgraded snipers here. So that said, I can't build too much that I think would be super effective here. I could show off a couple of the other towers that really won't do much. I could put missiles. Actually, I might as well just put at least one of these other towers so you guys can kind of see what they do. So there's the proton pulse tower, which is interesting. What it'll do is the proton pulse will fire at a target, and then over time it chains onto other targets. This is the plasma beam, which is basically like a slowly improving blast that focuses on a single target and then melts it slowly. This only does 3 seconds per shot. Okay. Well, either way, I don't have any of the energy towers upgrades, so I'm not really going to be sticking them around too much. But missiles can actually work really well here, just because of how they work. Alright. Actually, let me try... Oh, that's not what I wanted to build. Okay. Let's sell that. Here I think I wanted another flamethrower. This one's already upgraded, yes. This one can be upgraded too. As for these guys, I'm actually going to start purchasing the 55% damage increase for them to see how well they do. Yes, I will actually do that after I take a look at the global abilities and see how well the flamethrowers do. Now, their initial cost is still like 2.5 times what you get with the machine guns, so it might be a little rough starting out, but I'll see what happens. So the question is, am I going to lose horribly because of this? It's weird. I don't think the slow tower is actually slowing them enough. Alright, we're going to stop that for a moment. I'm going to build another flamethrower here and upgrade this. Pretty sure they're not going to destroy my base yet. Just not sure if I'll be able to get enough energy to actually build a good machine gun back here yet. Alright, they are starting to get pretty heavy though. So now with the way that these guys are moving, I'm wondering if the flamethrower actually becomes a better tower. There's still a lot of enemies, and I'm about to push the highest wave that I've ever gotten in the game so far. And I haven't even built a lot of towers that I could have built already. Actually, there's a lot of damage. Whoops, why is it still trying to build that? Damage increases that I haven't got as well. How much energy? Oh, these guys have a lot of health. I see why the game's not really balanced beyond wave 50 now, and I think that's why I seem to be losing around this wave. Because by this point, with the number of enemies coming out and the amount of health that they have, nothing that I could build with the energy that I've actually acquired thus far is actually going to do much. Unless, like, I decide to go strictly machine guns, not build any other type of towers other than maybe the slows, and then just pump the damage boosts into the machine guns, since they're ultimately cheaper than trying to build any new towers. Alright, so, wait, I said I was going to look at something else. Let's go into the research. This is where I am with the bonus energy. I start with 1420.6 energy. That starting amount is 1,000. And this is the 5th upgrade for this. Now, the next upgrade gets me 21% additional energy. Those the percentages are always based off of the initial energy amount. So if I were to purchase this, what I'd be getting is 210 extra energy. So it seems like it gives you about 50% more than you've gotten total so far. But I don't think, again, that's consistent. But I have a good amount of energy now, and I think the next upgrade that I can get only costs 1,000 for the flamethrower. Since we're going to play with flamethrowers, I'm going to purchase the flamethrower upgrade. This is my second tier 3 tower. So rotation speed, damage. Yeah, see, the first damage upgrade is always 5%. 5% is nothing, and that probably needs to be changed to be a more incremental or important cost. Range boost is probably super important, and for something like the flamethrower is probably one of the best things you can get. But yeah, then we're going to get the starting energy increase. Alright, so the next one only costs 500, and it looks like it's giving me 27%, which is going to be another 270 energy, which is a really good amount to start with. That said, we can increase the health of our extractors. I haven't done this nearly as much as I probably could have. There's about 7 more of those upgrades. And yeah, we can start focusing on these quite a bit more. Also, these stats are incorrect. For whatever reason, after you look at one of the towers, when you go back to the global stats, it displays incorrectly. But let us go back, and we are going to take a look at the zero cost, dropping some flamethrowers. Okay. Boom. I should still be able to get out a good amount of them. Oh wait, that is not the flamethrower. Boo, I pushed the wrong key. Sorry. That's missiles. There we go. Alright, I can do one more. You would never have been able to do this the way the game originally came out. Or went into alpha with, I should say. This is already fatiguing though. Alright, so now what I want to do is upgrade one of these. The question is... No, I don't think I'll be able to get anywhere with this. They cost just a bit too much. Maybe I'm wrong. Alright, because if I can get one of them to be upgraded, then I might be onto something. Nope. Alright, got the first one. Is it enough though? No, still not enough. So I think what it is that the flamethrowers are okay at hitting a large number of targets, but, and this is my entire argument for most of the towers still needing to be a little bit more balanced. The flamethrower originally did slightly less damage. It was at 0.2 per second to start, and also cost 75 more. The upgrade cost for it is pretty much exactly the same as it was before. Now, I think that with the energy cost for this and having like a unique sort of mechanic in the way that it damages all the enemies that are within its area, this should actually start out a little bit more powerful. Mainly because at 1.8 damage per second, all right, that's the amount that this does here. Just comparing this tower to the machine gun, the machine gun does about 9 times the amount of damage that this does. Actually, no, that's a bit too high. It's about 7. No, not even there. It's slightly more than 7 times the amount of damage that this does. Meaning that you would need this tower to hit at least 7 targets to actually make it worthwhile. Now that will happen at some point, but by the time you had the energy to spend doing that, you would be looking at being able to build a whole brand new machine gun tower. And that's my argument for actually dropping either the cost or significantly increasing the damage on the flamethrower tower. I still don't think it's balanced where towers like the machine gun or the sniper need to be. And I think because of that, the tower cost in the game may still be a little high. We can try this with a few more towers just to see like how they stack up. And I think the main issue is just that tower costs in the game are in general pretty high. I was actually surprised this even made it the flamethrowers only made it to like the wave that they did. Alright, this time let's try cannons. Already can't place anymore. So they're expensive. I don't think they're gonna make it at all though. Their rate of fire is just too slow. Yep, they have failed. And when you think of the cannons, remember this. Each cannon basically cost what 3 machine guns would to start. It's not even the initial energy. The initial energy is capped at some point. There's only 10 initial energy upgrades that you're able to purchase. After that, you can't purchase anymore. So it's not like you'll eventually just be able to purchase an infinite amount of energy and do whatever you want. There is a cap, and so at some point you need to follow a build order in every map. If I take a look at the research again, you can see that over here, the initial mission energy, we're at upgrade 6 of 10 purchased. So there's 4 more of these, and after that you can't go beyond it. So if the towers themselves are just too expensive, they don't work well. Now, there's an argument to be made for the fact that the towers that fire slowly are meant to take out heavy threats, and they have additional range. So towers right now basically fall into 2 categories. There's your continuous damage towers, which basically work the best versus the constant stream of enemies. Any tower that does this, the plasma beam is continuous, the machine gun tower is continuous, the the fire tower is continuous, the space-time tower is continuous, and the Tesla is continuous. Oh, so is the toxic. Those towers really will be able to be like the bread and butter of what you do. Let me show you what happens when you put out a toxic tower in the beginning. That'll work very differently. Okay, so we start out over here, make the enemy's path around. Actually, the toxic should probably go somewhere like right here. Oh no, this is probably the best place for it. All right, there we go. So you can't poison an enemy twice. I mentioned that. See, another toxic here. This one already will reach pretty much that far, so that would be pointless. Let's do something like drop a space-time. Alright, so we got a toxic and a space-time, right? Toxic towers damage health directly and cause enemies to regenerate 50% less shields over time. So basically the same thing that the fire tower was doing, except in 100% or 360 degree radius around it. Like it's damaging everywhere at once. And the cost for this tower is only 75 more. In addition to the fact that it's going to keep the shields from regenerating as quickly. So basically those 2 towers, even though that cost is like ridiculous, what is that? It's 1430 energy, I believe. We'll clear out the first few waves for you. I've built a bunch of extra tower bases needlessly, but they seem to function much better than just about anything other than the machine gun turret, and then you can just build those on top, and they work. Like, continuous towers are the closest thing to being balanced in the game. Of course, they're not completely there yet, because the cost on some of them is okay, the cost on others is pretty much not. But the issue that you'll run into is that ultimately you still need the damage that the machine guns are able to put out to keep things down. And the machine guns are the only thing that are sort of at the perfect cost right now. The only thing I would say about the way that the building seems to be going in the game at the moment is, I think, here's my entire take on everything right now. The initial cost of the towers still needs to be slightly lower, all right? Because that just allows you to get further in the game. The actual research cost and the upgrade cost for the initial 3 tiers of the tower also needs to be brought down just a bit. I would recommend personally having the energy cost of the towers be like scale off of the amount of damage that they can deal over time. For instance, the DPS of the machine gun is 1 damage per second. All right, so if you quantify that with its energy cost and its range, the range is relatively low, and of course you have to score that at some point, but anything within about 25 meters range is going to be taking 1 damage per second from it. That's not a huge amount of damage for this game, but it being consistent and effective is an important part of it. The upgrades don't really scale with any real sense of like consistency. The damage increase on the machine gun here is that you spend 6.5 times what it costs to increase its power by 430%. There is a bit of opportunity cost in just being able to have a stronger tower in one place. So the increased range and the increased damage is kind of made up for by that extra 220 energy or so that you're spending for the increase. But ultimately, that about adds up. It makes sense. Whereas if you look at the cost of the fire tower, to get that up to less than 1 damage per second on each unit that's within its range, you are looking at spending what you could get 2 machine gun towers for. And you're always going to be comparing what you could build in something like this to determine what is the best option at the time. And ultimately, like, it becomes really difficult for you to really build anything initially that competes with the machine gun. And I think that one part of the game really needs to change. Like, you should be able to start out with flamethrowers. You should be able to start out with missiles and actually have them be able to reasonably clear the starting enemies. Because if the beginning path is always the same, then even as you start to get more and more energy, the variety of what you're able to do is not really going to be much different. Like this, the putting out the toxic tower with the space time, that's really one of the few starts that you're able to do besides just like the flamethrower and additional machine guns, or just straight machine guns. Anything else thus far has basically failed. And at this point, if I look at the enemy HP, I'm pretty sure I have to upgrade something or they're going to start running through now. You have about 27 HP each. The toxic tower, it actually makes a really huge difference. Yeah, they're starting to run through already. Of course, the damage reflection pretty much kills them. The damage reflection also ignores shields. So anytime they manage to hit your extractor, they will themselves be hit, and then that's free damage to them. Well, not completely free because you lose extractor health for it, but that's kind of the purpose. You can upgrade that shield further so that they take more feedback damage. I'm kind of trying to let this end, but the toxic tower is actually really good. What's that cost? I can't see the upgrade cost until I actually purchase the upgrade. That's right. Okay, so research skills. Toxic. Oh, that's not the toxic tower. Here we go. This is going to cost $9.97. This is the next upgrade that I actually want to get to see what it does. The poison duration is the amount of time that they're poisoned after they leave the area. And it hits them for 0.1 per second in damage, and this actually just keeps their shields from regenerating 2. That's pretty good. Towers that I'm not too sure of as far as how they fit into how the game works yet are the, where is it? The Plasma Beam and the Proton Pulse. The Proton Pulse may be like a short range, really strong, no, sorry, not the Proton Pulse. The Plasma Beam is basically your energy boss killer, but I'm not sure how well it works yet. I need to just use it more often. But the game kind of gets you comfortable with the way that it's set up right now, with just spamming machine guns. And I think for a tower defense game, you want it to feel sort of unique with the placements, and doesn't quite have that yet. I think lowering the initial energy costs a little bit further will make that happen. Like, honestly, it should scale pretty close together. Like, a cannon doesn't really do it doesn't justify 3 times the cost of the machine gun tower. It should probably be like maybe 150 to start. The missile tower should probably be about 200. The Proton Pulse, I'm not too sure on. I need to play with this a bit more. I think that's what I'm going to focus on next, the energy towers. The flamethrower should probably just be also a flat 200. Stats currently where they are will be fine. The space-time tower can stay exactly where it is. It's pretty important, and it's okay at that. The Tesla tower is something I'm going to try out a bit more too. Let's actually do that. So the Tesla is interesting because, unlike most of the other towers, it can chain to multiple enemies. I don't have enough to place more than one more. I should actually place it over here. And let's see how 3 Teslas do. What the Teslas do is they jump from enemy to enemy, and they ignore shields. They may actually not work out too well. They choose to jump from the strongest enemy. Okay, I guess that makes sense. I actually want him to be on the first, though. I guess that doesn't work too well for the chaining effect. So let's change them back to strongest. So that's also another thing. Because of the towers having different particular effects, they really only work well when you have enemies of a specific type out. So for instance, the Teslas really can't do anything special as far as their chaining, because there's not a lot of enemies with a high enough amount of HP that they can bounce between the enemies. They should also probably chain much quicker, like probably immediately. Because the chaining really only becomes important if they can't kill their targets initially, and they can start chaining to whatever is around it. And as soon as they change targets, they actually don't maintain the chains anymore, which is also kind of a problem for them. That makes the Tesla really not worth like the initial investment too. I mean, the fact that it ignores shields is nice, but seeing as it's relatively weak. Alright, so here's what you have the option to do, like as far as the design goes with towers like this. Because they can't really do a lot early for their cost, even though this is continuous, it really only works well if there is a lot of high strength enemies mixed in with the light ones. Now again, like this is all initial, like just feedback with the way the game is now. It's not necessarily going to stay that way. They could be heavy enemies mixed in with the lighter ones when the stages all become like unique and balanced. And at that point, like all of this critique changes. But you do want to be able to put out like something like the Tesla and not have it be like abundantly weak in the early parts of the game just because all the enemies' HP is homogeneous. Like the differentiation in HP is sort of what makes the Tesla worthwhile, but until they actually introduce like a heavy enemy around, I think like wave 15, it's really not even worth putting out. Okay, so that's interesting there. The Tesla might be better off having its cost lowered either initially so that you can place it early. What I think would be best though, is leaving the cost where it is and actually increasing the overall ability of the tower itself. That will make it so that the tower is actually really strong for the energy cost, and it becomes stronger as you upgrade it. Kind of like how the sniper is like a direct upgrade on the cannon tower. Like the cannon tower and the sniper are basically the same thing. The difference is the sniper just does more damage and has more range. And that's okay because of how extreme the cost is in comparison. It costs 50% more to place, and that cost translates into all of the upgrades. Now, what else do we have here that's really important? The proton pulse tower, I think, is really what the Tesla should be, or like it's early version of the Tesla. It fires to heavier enemies and then chains to lighter ones. I just want to do a quick, again, similar no cost run with that just to see how it actually affects the different enemies. So proton pulse costs 350. That cost may be justified. Let's see actually how it performs. Now it's another tower that's set up to hit strong targets and then chain to lighter ones. Now again, because of the homogenized enemy HP, them all being the same, it's not really going to function that well, but the chains here are ridiculous. That doesn't seem right either. Let's slow this down and look at it. This says it should chain 2 times. This is hitting way more than 2 targets. Oh, you know what? I think the way the chain is described may be a bit inaccurate. And that may actually make this a really amazing tower. So I'm thinking this would chain kind of like chain lightning, right? And what you actually seem to be getting is, I think each chain splits it, and then it chains to additional targets. But I'm not sure how many targets it will chain to after it splits. It may fork and double every time, in which case this is actually kind of a semi-improvement on the flamethrower. Chain step max length 12.5 meters. That's a good amount of range. That's about half the range of where the machine gun starts. And that could be extremely strong. Okay, so for the cost on the proton pulse, I think it's actually warranted. Because it's meant to target the strongest enemies, this may actually be the type of weapon you want to use on or mix in with your machine guns early on. I don't have any of the upgrades for this yet, but I think based on just looking at what it does here, I'm probably going to try to get some, because this seems pretty good. Now, if you wanted to focus on heavier enemies even more, you could take that and then put out one of the plasma beams. And this will also only target the heaviest enemy at the time and focus on it. This doesn't seem to switch targets after it starts firing either, which is probably a very good thing. Let's actually get out a few more of these pulses. Now the pulses actually become very weak if you don't have heavier enemies around, but because of the unique way that they're designed where they deal less damage to the enemies that they chain to, they still do a decent amount of damage to what is left behind. So balancing these out with, say, the plasma beam should actually be pretty interesting. So these actually seem like much better towers than I initially expected them to be. Of course, like, I don't have any upgrades unlocked for them yet, so they really won't be able to push you that far. Of course, once I do have some upgrades for them, the cost may factor in. And there's no information still about what the actual full charge does on the plasma beam. And that's something that I think should be included in the tooltips. Like, how much bonus damage do you get on the plasma beam per second? How strong can it get? Like, what's the maximum of total damage? Okay, so the next things that we want to actually focus on are going to be these two. We need 688 for the beam tower and 688 for the proton pulse tower. All right, so instead of just going and firing these off, we've tried out the majority of, no, we've tried out all of the towers now. Based on that, any of these HP or extra damage reflection? Damage reflection is good. Let's go and try to push for some more energy. And then after that, I think that will be the last run for me tonight. But I'll probably be back later on in the week to stream this again, and we'll see how far we can push the energy towers as far as... Oh, actually, yes. Actually, let's do that before I decide to change anything. Oh, mission failed because I spent the energy. Whoops. All right, return to main menu. You can change the profile. Cheaty. Make cheat face. Use profile. Go cheats. Energy reserve plus 10,000. Research. Boom. Unlock all towers. Set rank to general. All right. So there we go. All right. Max starting energy is 3,000. Oh, out of energy. Not anymore. Alright, 2% is the max for the energy that you gain at the end of a mission, which is double what you start with. And since that works long term, that's super important. Of course, that's probably the least important thing here. That's a 250% boost to your extractor HP. This number needs to be changed to a percentage because each of the platforms has a different HP total, and that basically won't tell you anything. I could just keep clicking this. Is there a max energy? Does not look like it. There we go. Okay, so in 150% damage reflection looks to be what you can get here. Okay, so all those numbers look nice. We've unlocked all the towers at tier 3. This is the stun chance. I guess we need to do that. Okay, so what is this? The chain quality improves the chain effect and makes it grow faster. Alright, so the chain steps for the Tesla can go up to 6. You get 1 extra per upgrade. The length of the chain goes up as well, and damage looks to get pretty decent. Still not amazing though. Okay, so you can get the chain growth down to half of what it normally costs. Oh crap, there's 99 of these, and I can't even afford all of them. So this should tell you about how much time you can spend in this game if you actually were just going to grind through it. Like, all of these hundreds of thousands of energy that I'm calculating right now, I've only dumped into 1 tower so far. It was much easier to max out the globals, but it looks like the top, wow, those cost a lot. Okay, let's try some of the other things that don't have things that are quite that high. Alright, the damage ones are never going to actually get that high. Whoa, those rate of fire boosts look ridiculous. Well, yeah, but tower defense games, at least the more traditional ones, always have like a bit of idle time to them. So the range boosts don't seem like they get too crazy, but let's see what this, let's actually look at the increments here. The stun chance goes up a bit with each level. And I guess as they get more concrete, they cost more, like much more. This doesn't fire an explosion or anything though. Rate of fire is probably going to be super important for this. What? Why is the boost on this so huge? And that last upgrade looked like it cost a much smaller amount than anything else. Like they just threw you a bone. And then the rotation speed increases slowly. Maxes out at 10,000. Okay. And then we'll just throw a few in here, get it up to like 20. Okay. Jeez. Yeah, we're not going to go beyond 20 on any of these. I'll max out the other stuff. I don't think I'll ever have the energy to spend in a match, even with all this, but we'll see. Alright, so that's most of the starting towers. What is this? Chain damage. Boost the effect on all enemies in the chain after the first one. Boom. Okay, so when you're done, chain goes up to 68% damage from the 40 it started at. Now, these aren't inherent bonuses, again, to anything. You don't start with these. They have to be purchased after you extra chain jumps. Wow, this... Okay, so here's the thing about this. I haven't purchased fire speed or anything. Upgrading this turret increases the amount of shots you get. The number of chains are instant. And they become you eventually get a chance to stun by purchasing the upgrades. You can purchase additional chain jumps. This completely seems to outclass the Tesla. And even with the Tesla and being able to purchase 56 damage upgrades, it doesn't do quite that much more damage. Like, this only has 20 damage upgrades. Alright, so let's just say I do purchase these. You get 6 jumps on this now. I think the Tesla also maxes out at 6. But it still takes time to chain. Yeah, the Tesla alright, so you can up the chains, but it still takes time. And the Tesla's chains aren't the same as the chains here. I think it changed to like 1 additional target. This one changed to multiple. Though I'm not sure if the multiple hits on the chaining from the proton pulse is a bug or not. Oh geez, out of energy again. Alright, so this is 954%. This one's alright, so the damage increases are flat on every tower. Every tower that gets damage increases by the same amount. That's nice to know. Same is probably going to be for the rotation speed bonus, and the beam full charge is a custom one that's unique to this. So it looks like that turns the time down to 2 seconds. And still doesn't tell you exactly what the charge does or how long it takes to reach that. Or, well, no, the length of time it takes to reach it is there. But not exactly what it does. And the fire tower just doesn't really seem like anything super special other than its default AoE abilities. Okay. Need more of that yellow energy stuff. Slowdown percentage, you can get this up to 90% slow. Alright, see, this is where the real energy needs to be spent. Always on this. The slowdown duration can be increased to 6 seconds too. So that's interesting because this basically turns into a situation where this gets a larger range. Like, all of the upgrades here are super important, and they actually mean that you have to place fewer of these, which is nice. Okay, that one's already done. So it looks like that's what this does. The damage on this goes up very slightly. The main thing that changes is the range, and you can increase the poison duration, which basically means that damage boosts on this tower are pointless. And they will probably need to be tiered completely differently than the rest of them to even make the energy spent here be worth it. Alright, this has a rotation speed, fire rate, which probably turns it, yeah, into something completely ridiculous. Like, if you ever got this to 0.12 seconds per shot, it's ridiculous. And then, of course, we up the stun chance, and we get this as close to 20. Oh, we're there. Alright, so everything's at the 20 points of damage except for the Tesla, which is completely ridiculous. Alright. We've got our cheaty profile ready. Let's go ahead and actually, it's cleared all of the maps for me, too. High score 600 waves. So that's what getting you to general does. It just gives you 600 waves on everything. So we go into this. We can go in with the Hercules if we want. We can go with it. Oh, I already chose something by accident. I'm going to abandon this one and go back in with something that I'm familiar with. Just so that, like, actually no. Well, yeah, because I don't want to take this. I don't want this to take forever. If you do lose, it tells you how much energy you lose too. Yeah, the sniper basically does become a machine gun. Here, let's go on with the Europa since we have that on the actual profile so we can see just how ridiculous this becomes. So like I said before, you can't actually purchase any of the tier 3 upgrades or the special research ones until after you have actually unlocked that, or reach that tier by spending the energy in game. So let's give myself 10,000 energy. Oh, that immediately pushes the wave timer on, or did it just happen naturally? I'm not sure. All right, so this costs 4,000 energy to get this up to the point where it's doing 1.8 damage a second. You get a really wide cone, which is nice, but for this cost, you would have had 2 machine guns doing about 30 damage a second. To actually out damage them, this would have to constantly be hitting 15 enemies about at the same time. So I think the upgrade cost and the actual cost of the flamethrower needs to come down, and that's just base. So if we just dump as much as we can in damage here, it still doesn't become that impressive. You get up to 14.6. I mean, that's a lot for being able to hit every enemy within its range, but still nothing to write home about. If we want to talk about something super ridiculous, and let's take a quick look at what this sniper can turn into. So let's upgrade this twice. That's really expensive, but that range is ridiculous. This thing can literally hit everywhere. So it's just going to start firing on everything that exists. We can actually just sell this, I'm guessing. Alright, but this still has that super low fire rate, right? Let's give it the 5% and then the 704%. And it's doing a pretty good job. Let's change it to first. Now, we haven't maxed out the fire rate yet, but these cost a lot. And we also can't even afford the last upgrade, which is around 30,000. But once we do that, I'm interested now. Like, this costs way too much to actually be ever practical, just to do like this one tower anytime. But with no other upgrades, just its base damage at tier 3 and its fire rate increased, how far is that going to take us? Like, literally you have to overwhelm it with sheer numbers because it's really just cleaning everything up. And what's the actual cost on that? If I try to sell it, does it give me back? No. Hold on, let me see something. So you never get back any energy that is spent on research upgrades. That is something that's probably important to understand, and I'm not sure if it's intentional or not. Because if it's intentional, then that means that you'd have to be very careful about what you spend research on. If it's not intentional, then that's a pretty glaring bug that you would need to take hold of. Especially since research into things like this, you have to purchase individually per tower. That's super expensive. Pretty sure I don't have to worry about anything for quite some time. it's funny because this is like firing super fast at everything as they kind of come out. And like initially, like if it just keeps firing on them, it kind of looks like there's smoke coming out of the gun. But that's not actually smoke. Those are trails from the cartridges that the sniper tower throws off every time it fires a shot. It's firing so fast that it looks like it's just smoking. I would guess, personally, that this tower, with the way that it is right now, is probably going to push into around wave 100 by itself. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, most of the beginning research upgrades they're not nearly as impactful, and I think that's a bit of an issue too. Like the 5% and then 55% energy boost for close to the same amount. Like I would expect to see like a 5% energy boost for whatever like a flat amount of energy would cost. Like if you consider a 5% energy boost, well actually there's a problem with the like actually trying to scale that, and that's the fact that certain towers just don't do any significant damage. Like the energy boost for the poison tower costs the same amount as an energy boost, or I'm sorry, damage boost for the poison tower costs the same amount as the damage boost on the sniper. I'd never boost the damage on the toxic tower because it just doesn't go anywhere. However, the range and the poison duration I would definitely purchase if I were to do something like this here and then upgrade this to 0.4 per second and then 1.4 per second. Like that is huge. And then we go range boost. And then poison duration. Then we have 12 seconds of poison right there. Like those are ridiculous. Increasing the damage on this is basically a moot point. There's no point in doing it. But I think the actual poison damage on that would have to go up at some point. But I know for a fact because I think the devs were in the Twitch stream that I did for this. Initially, they said that the Toxic Tower wasn't completely balanced yet. So there's a lot of numbers on most of the towers that are eventually going to change. That's kind of why I wanted to make sure that I went through them. But it's more important to understand how they feel while actually earning them and going through the game properly than just looking at the numbers in a vacuum, because then you can see what the sort of energy you would have as you play through the map and what their costs actually feel like, as opposed to what just what the flat numbers are. That way you can feel the difference in the actual gameplay decisions, rather than just saying, oh, this one doesn't seem strong, this one does seem strong. Well, I don't have all of the research or the energy to get like a super crazy machine gun yet, but let's start stocking up now. Let me stop at a 5, no, let's go for 1,000,000 energy. Just flat million. Okay, so we're going to sell this for pittance. Okay, slow everything down. Get a machine gun. Alright, we're going to increase the range and the rotation speed and the rate of fire. Alright, so we're at 49 times the rate of fire now, right? This is another thing that I think is a problem. The machine gun has a rate of fire increase, but I believe the rate of fire increases don't work on continuous towers. And you can tell by the fact that the damage number per second here didn't change. It doesn't affect the continuous. So the only thing that you can do here is increase the damage via this upgrade. And even that million energy was not enough to purchase the very last damage upgrade here. So that actually shows a weakness in the design for the rate of fire increase. Continuous towers never get affected, and I was wondering about that myself when I was looking at the continuous energy upgrades, or I'm sorry, the rate of fire energy upgrades for continuous towers. It means that that upgrade itself specifically needs to be changed so that it increases the damage per second by a flat amount. So that really doesn't do anything. That's much less impressive. But that means for the game long term, like, all right, let's say that you didn't want to use the rate of fire on the machine gun tower. You could just remove that upgrade path altogether so that nobody has the opportunity to spend anything on it, because you wouldn't want them to be able to increase the amount of damage per second that the continuous towers do, and leave them with the other upgrades, the damage, the rotation speed, and the range. And then that would give you the option of saying, all right, you can build your machine gun towers and they'll be good in the beginning, and you can build some damage upgrades for them and that'll be okay. But if you want the real damage, then you'll have to spend the base cost on the sniper towers, replace your machine guns, and then research them so that they get really powerful. So that said, let's see how this plasma beam works out. Alright, so we got a tier 3 plasma beam now. 22. That's not going to do anything because it's not going that far. Okay, anything else that we can place here before we die? Probably not. Energy surplus 30,000. Alright, I actually want to go back and do that one more time. I want to see what the plasmas can actually do when they get up to a ridiculous state. Because the plasmas are able to take advantage of all of the upgrades that exist there. Like the plasma beam does not have the same sort of available upgrade, but it has the overcharging. Let's just drop those in there. And then we're going to put a proton pulse. The protons should be able to benefit from those ridiculous chains. So this one, because it doesn't have the rate of fire, gets its beam full charge time boost. And that makes this actually super strong. And with this one, what we would want, I guess, is the so this is the weird thing about this one. It already gets a significant increase to its rate of fire for every upgrade that you do to it. Let me actually sell this, build it again. So at tier 1, 3 seconds per shot. Tier 2, 2 seconds per shot. Tier 3, actually the upgrade on this one, and it's about 3 times the cost. Alright. Tier 3, it's 1 second per shot. But the damage on here does not go up nearly that much. It's 4.6, and then the chain damage is 50%. So that's really just meant to actually deal damage to groups of enemies. How good is it at doing that though? I guess because the rate of fire increases significantly, it actually is super good at it. Like, that seems like really crazy. And because of how the chaining here works and how many enemies this can chain to, it may actually be just infinitely superior to the fire tower. Alright, but if a tier 3 tower is losing at wave 12, that's kind of problematic. So this really requires like pathing to actually make it function. But like the fire tower, it only is going to be at the top of its game when the enemy numbers are extremely high. But still, for what it is able to do when those numbers are there, it's amazing. And I don't think the fire tower really seems to put out the same amount of power. We can find out in a moment. Just sell this and then drop fire tower again. Wait, that's not a fire tower. So the fire tower can barely kill anything. Whereas the other one was doing much more damage. And actually, because the fire tower doesn't have that rate of fire increase, can't really do any better than that without just purchasing damage boosts. Let's go back to the proton pulse. Double upgraded. Purchase the extra chain jumps. Purchase the extra chain damage. And then purchase the rate of fire. Now it's up to 36 shots per second. We went from seconds per shot to shots per second. Now we're at 50. So what does that look like? I think this is incorrect. Or maybe I was wrong. I think the issue is just the range. So let's get that 15% extra range. So this basically, this completely outclasses the flamethrower long term. That really is 50 shots a second. Wow. That seems completely nuts. But then that becomes a balancing issue with whether or not certain towers are even viable short-term in the game. If the fire tower is so bad that this makes it look bad early, and this tower will scale into the end game extremely well, that seems like a problem with the design of the fire tower itself. Like, it needs some extra staying power that other towers don't have. Granted, this is probably a ton of energy that you would never really want to spend on a tower this early, but it's holding its own by itself. I don't think it's nearly as good as that fully upgraded sniper tower will ever be, but this has no damage upgrades other than the chains, which are unique to itself. But I don't think enemies are at all close enough to actually benefit from the chaining. I don't think it actually reaches the 50 shots a second though. Let me see how much health the enemies are carrying. Because these guys have... Alright, maybe I was wrong. They are getting melted. Okay, so far, the sniper and the sniper, the proton pulse, and the plasma beam all seem really good. Can't really stress how really good enough they seem. The fire tower seems like it's really bad. The machine gun tower is good early because it's really cheap, but the rate of fire needs to be changed. The Toxic Tower just seems like it's a utilitarian tower. The Space-Time Tower, actually, was something that we could take a look at. Okay, so 4,000 to get it to 60% slowdown. And the main thing that you want to boost here is slowdown duration. Alright, so basically for the cost of 2 of these, you can change it from the base amount to about 70%. Okay. The slowdown percentage is different than what it actually read as on the default screen. I think... Hold on. That doesn't seem right. Alright, we have the slow tower here. If we upgrade this twice, it goes to... The second upgrade doesn't increase the slow. Or am I reading this wrong? I think I did. First upgrade turns it to 50. Oh no, it does increase it. Turns it to 60. So then a 50% upgrade in slow should cause it to go to 90%. 10. 20. No, these numbers are incorrect. Because, alright, if it's going from 60 to 73.3, that means that it's not using the correct boost amount. That's not even 12, that's 13.3% total. And if you calculate that, I'm just going to pull off my calculator. You guys probably aren't going to see anything. That actually accounts for only a 22% increase in overall ability for the tower. So this display amount is wrong, or I would have to think that the display amount here is wrong, or the amount that's actually being affected as far as the slowdown goes is incorrect. Alright, that works properly. And then of course the range. Alright, so we know the slowdown percentage is bugged. Or at least it's not displaying properly. There's probably a few other things that's incorrect too. Alright, so we already know the proton pulse is like super OP. At least, ultimately. They get in the range, they get lasered down. So what can a max Tesla actually do? In quality, extra chain jumps. It has no fire rate since it's continuous. So the Tesla looks like it is relatively weak compared to the proton pulse. That's going to be a thing too. So yeah, the Tesla needs a bit of work in the way that it does its chains. It either needs to chain faster, which I think would probably be the best choice. Like maybe have the chain start at half a second and then increase the damage significantly too. The Tesla also ignores shields, but as we can see here, ignoring shields still doesn't matter if your damage is quite as low as it is. Like, a lot of Teslas together may be a bit more effective, but ultimately it's still not that great. And for what it costs to max out those two traits, probably still not really good at all. Okay, so it looks like the plasma beam isn't really that great either. Increasing its charge time isn't super powerful, and enemies do get a pretty tough amount of HP early, so much so that the cost of this actually isn't that great. This needs to do a lot more damage, even without any of the research, before this would be worth it. I mean, it doesn't seem that bad, but it's just not nearly on the level of maybe even the cannon tower. Now, granted, the cannon tower won't have line of sight issues, or will have line of sight issues, I'm sorry. But rate of fire here gives you 14 shots per second. And just with the base damage, that's already looking like quite ridiculous. We change this to first. Give it the range boost. Okay. The cannon gets completely ridiculous. Okay. Gotcha. Like, that's a really powerful tower once you actually get it up there. And we haven't gotten the rotation speed increase or the stuns. The stuns would allow you to stun enemies, and the damage increase would just blow the damage up completely. Of course, it will get eventually very prohibitively expensive, but at about 50% per upgrade, that's not too bad. The hard thing would be actually getting the research necessary to increase the rate of fire, and there's still another rate of fire increase that you would eventually be able to get for another 20 grand. Wait, did I not have... No, I have the energy for it. It's not letting me purchase it though. Oh, there it is. Oh, it was 30. I could have sworn that said 20 a second ago. Hold on. It does! What? Why does this tell you that it's 20,000? Alright, that's another bug. When it's 30. Then we do that, and then we're at 16.67 shots per second. And nothing will pretty much get past that. And that supremely outdamages like 99% of the turrets that exist now. Alright, so the cannon actually becomes pretty good later. What doesn't is the machine gun, which is understandable because that you would eventually want to be able to swap out once your other towers are actually capable and they have the research necessary to make them warranted. The proton pulse is actually really good later. The cannon, the missiles, I haven't tried those yet to see what they sort of do. Alright, so you go from 2 to 4 missiles on the final upgrade, and it also gets a significant speed increase. Does it actually shoot 4 missiles? Now this has the same rate of fire shenanigans. So, you can get it down to how many seconds, or how many shots per second? 12.5 missile shot fired per second. Okay, sell the cannon. Oh, jeez. Alright, this gets ridiculous. And it also has the ability to stun enemies in an area, I believe. Yeah, all the continuous towers are going to blow chunks. And that's kind of okay if they become really cheap early. Like, I think what you should probably do is have your continuous towers be really, really cheap. Like, have them cheap early so that you can place them, they kind of get their effects in, they do their thing. With a separation between the space-time tower, which will always be good no matter what, and the toxic tower, which has bonus effects of just not letting enemies get their shields back. Those really won't get worse, and they don't really have any mechanics that make spamming them or upgrading them too much really worthwhile. Well, this is the thing though. The towers that are continuous, they can get damage increases. But the towers that aren't continuous can get damage increases and rate of fire. And the energy spent is the same. So the question just becomes, where do you want to place the energy? And personally, it would be in the non-continuous towers. But that means that the continuous towers need to have base stats that basically make them competitive, at least for, like, say, the first 100 or so waves, so that you won't really think about placing the non-continuous towers until you have the energy to start placing them with some of these upgrades. They don't even have to be like at this level, because at a lower level they still start to become very powerful with just like a few fire rate increases or a few damage increases. But this here is like completely ridiculous. Like, this thing can drop, because that's 12.5 shots a second, right? Then it's firing 4 missiles per second. Each missile is 9.7 damage. So that by itself, without any damage upgrades, and remember, those missiles will hit enemies in an area. That's 485 damage per second in an area, with a 30% chance to stun. Like, if enemies don't wind up with some sort of stun resistance, that basically turns the game into an instant win. You can't lose with probably just a single one of these. Because you can see that the enemies have a very narrow entrance that they can go through here. I would argue that I can set the wave reach to 1,000. I can't actually increase the wave. Oh wait, I have to slide it first. Alright, let's go to wave 274. Oh, this doesn't take us to the wave. Alright, so you actually do have to sit through the wave. Huh. Oh no, something got through. And it eventually was able to shoot them too. They had no chance. Yeah, this one turret seems to be doing the thing. Well, two. There is a slow there, and I think that's important. But still, the fact that like you're able to get this much with a single turret, and this is unique to the missile tower specifically because it deals damage in an area. No other tower, as far as I'm aware, has the ability to hit this many enemies and stun them. Like, the only tower with the ability to hit that many enemies would be... Oh, no. I was wrong. The Proton Pulse can stun, too. So the question is... So the two best towers in the game will probably wind up being the missiles and the Proton Pulse. Because after you do this, you just get the stun chance on the Proton Pulse. And then you purchase the chain jumps and the rate of fire. And I could probably sell the missiles now. And there we go. Now it doesn't seem to be doing quite as much damage, but I didn't increase the chain damage, which would give it more damage, or the range. But this takes even more research and upgrades to basically do what the missiles were already doing with just the rate of fire and stun. Yeah, I'm just testing out some of the upgrades here, and these upgrades don't really seem fair or balanced. They are expensive, which makes sense, but that also makes like certain towers much less useful in game than others. Looks like the goals are either going to be missiles or this plasma pulse. Yeah, like these guys aren't getting to do anything. It's just like, hello, welcome to Slowsville and infinite stuns. And the thing is, this is just a single one of these towers doing this. Like, if you use them together, nothing would be getting through. This is actually where the missile would be superior to the plasma pulse. Even with all its chains, it's not true AoE, and so ultimately it gets overwhelmed with sheer numbers. Whereas if we were to put our buddy the missile there, and again, this is just stun chance and rate of fire. No problems. Is that guy like literally stuck under the water? Is there an underwater enemy? What is this? Stone golem. I think that guy's cheats. He's literally just like walking underneath the ground, or it may be a bug. Yeah, because there's other stone golems, but he's the only one that managed to walk beneath the ground. And we literally can't shoot him because of it. That's hilarious. They're trying. So can he hit... Can he actually hit the core? Alright, he's out of the range of the slow. Wait, where did he go? Did he just die? Oh, he vanished. Are they? Yep, they're still stuck there. So yeah, the missile turret, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even think this is necessary. You can get rid of that completely and just missiles for days. I mean, the plasma, the proton pulse helps, but that missile tower. Right, and it does look like you're getting to a point where you really need something else. But then, you know, of course, we have our tried and true, why aren't you sniping everything? Which can also stun, and then we get a ridiculous rate of fire thing going. Let's change this to first. And watch it pick off literally everything as it follows the line backwards. And again, these are just stun and rate of fire. This is no damage upgrades. The damage upgrades get ridiculously expensive, but I don't even think they would be important for what you're trying to do here. And as great and overpowered as I think the missiles are, the sniper proves that with the rate of fire upgrades, it's possibly even more OP. That's just crazy. Like, you don't even need the stun upgrades there. You would just use the rate of fire. And I think that's why they have the starting energy capped. Because if not, you'd be able to guarantee yourself, like, passage all the way into the hundreds of waves quite easily just by pouring your research into your starting energy. Is it the giant stream of red and yellow fire? I actually find it kind of funny that they didn't make the slow turret some sort of like goo cannon. Like, you could have fired on the enemies and slowed them down for a period after hitting them. It would have given like something like the random fire option, like some sort of thought, rather than just being a AoE turret that slows everything. Because it being constant and in a sort of like huge radius actually makes it a no-brainer as far as like the fact that it's going to be super useful. Alright, so yeah, the sniper turret still holds its crown as the most OP turret in the game. Eventually it'll get overwhelmed and then it sort of gets picked up by the missile turret and its ridiculous stun lock. And then the Toxic Tower really just helps everything not get its shields back. And also deals a small amount of damage to everything that gets stuck in its area. I mean, I guess dealing like 14 times the damage when you max upgrade the Toxic Tower is okay, but it's still not a lot of damage compared to how much it actually costs. Range gets huge though. Like, if there was something that you were going to wind up doing eventually, it will probably be like Toxic Tower, max upgrade, max the poison duration, max the range, don't care about the damage, missile tower with the stuns, and then from there it will probably just be cannons up front and then snipers in the back. The missile towers, so alright, most of the ballistic towers are okay. The machine gun gets basically outclassed very early. The fire tower is pretty much not worth using for the majority of the game. Space-time tower is necessary. Tesla's just not good. Mainly because it has the chains, but its chains are low damage, slow, and it doesn't have a rate of fire upgrade, and it just takes too long. The Toxic Tower is a staple, and then the sniper is like OP. Alright, so we've basically figured out our tower tiering, and the fire tower is really the only thing that seems to have like zero niche. The plasma beam will need some sort of upgrade or workaround to actually become useful. Nah, it couldn't even be Jason Bourne, dude. Like that sniper tower is picking off more than 8 people per second. Like, I don't even think most people could line up targets and fire like a manual, like a carbine or something like that fast enough to pick off more than like a couple targets, just because of things like having to deal with the recoil. Like, that's just inhuman. Actually, wait, do they have like... I can't really make it out. Okay, yeah, so after every few shots or whatever, when it stops firing, the little cylinders on the right like cock and launch, like they're ejecting the shells, but I have no idea why they turn up to eject like a final shell when it's done. Maybe because they're not really meant to be firing that fast. Wait, did they really kill everything? Like, there's nothing in range now. Oh wow, they actually have more damage they can't die from a single shot to it anymore. More health, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, the sniper rifle is definitely the tower. And now we're at the point where they actually start working together. 145, huh? Let me see something here. Okay, so you can force yourself to lose all your energy. That's what I wanted to know. Alright, so let's dump all of our energy from here on out and actually see how much we start gaining. Energy per target is around 48. That's really not much better than what we were getting around wave 70. It's like 20% better, and we're at like twice the waves. The HP is definitely still going up. What are those, Titans? We're definitely in the realm of fighting much tougher enemies now. The Exterminators have about 900 HP. Fire Golems got about 1200, jeez. Why is a Fire Golem coming out of the sea? Stone Golems have, what, slightly more HP than the Fire Golems. The Titan. The Titans don't really have much more of anything. Titans are actually weaker than the Golems, it seems. So I think we're actually nearing the point where we have the last enemy type show up. I don't think all of the enemy types are implemented yet, but I think it's either wave 175 or 165 where we get the last enemy type. The Nemesis. Ooh. Wow. I actually wanted to see that. Looks like they walk out and they're carrying like some sort of small mace. I should be able to pick them out when they come out again. They're pretty big. Alright, those are the Fire Golems. Alright, so the Stone Golems are a little bit smaller. Stone Golems have more HP though, it looks like. Leeches are still pretty weak. Plague. Oh, I guess those are the guys that spawn the Pestilence. Yeah, there's another Pestilence. It just dies. Fire Golems. Alright, so the Cloakers are in there somewhere. Stone Golems. Ice Golems. Alright, they're just kind of weak. But yeah, Fire Golems coming out of the ocean doesn't make that much sense. The fodder enemies never really get that much stronger. It's all the boss types that actually seem to force you to need the upgrades. Scourge. Okay. There's the golems again. Not the guy that I'm looking for though. Where's the exterminator? Or not the exterminator, the nemesis. Maybe they don't come out anymore? Seems like they can't even fit all the enemies on the stage anymore. Diablo. Oh wow, those are actually pretty tough. Guess that's one of the special types too. I don't think that's the last one though. What do we got here? Titans. They're weaker than the golems. Fire golems. Those are just porcupines. We're almost at the last enemy type. Raptors are just fast. They don't really have any health. Oh, there we go. There's a Gorgon. That's already been in there though. Where's the last enemy type? Should be coming in a few waves. Those guys are just gonna get gunned down. Okay, the sniper seems to be like the only expensive turret that's like literally worth its cost. Oh, there he is. Let's take a look at this dude before he dies. Alright, he died. A really high amount of energy per kill. 80. Lots of health and shields too. But I don't think he was the last. 2 more waves and we get to see him. 1 more now. Whoa, they send a lot of fast stuff at you on that wave. That missile was still trying to hit. I actually don't spend as much time doing the YouTube stuff as I would like. Like, I actually think the quality of my stuff could be a lot better if I had more time to put into editing and like graphic design. But I actually work as a customer support technician for a telecommunications company. Basically, I fix a lot of the errors that happen to accounts and help to coordinate the repair efforts whenever there are problems in random areas. I support about 1/3 of the United States. The area specifically is like kind of a mashup of different states because cable companies are all over the place. But yeah, like I do that for about 8 to 10 hours a day, and then I spend a little bit of time I have afterwards to try to take care of myself, which I don't do nearly as well as I should, and then produce my YouTube content. Part of the reason why I am not able to really get out a video every day like I would like to is because sometimes I go a little overboard and I gotta take a break. But I did a bit of research when I first started the YouTube thing just so I could start learning how to put things together, and most of it is from the experience that I have just dealing with computers in general and trying to put together materials and equipment that would allow me to actually produce what I produce. It's not too expensive to actually do the things that I do here, but if I were to try to turn this into anything else, it would probably cost a bit more. Like, I think my current... Ooh, what are those? Hunters. I think that's the last enemy. Those big dog-looking things. They're not particularly fast, but they have a ton of HP and shields, and they're worth, I guess, the most energy in the game. But they can be stunned and shot down, so that's it. Actually, most of the people that I know that got into YouTube around the same time as me have better setups than me, like more equipment, cameras, microphones, all of the really nice audio-visual tech equipment. I'm pretty much just riding with a half-decent mic and my PC, which I built actually a couple years before I even started making YouTube videos. I'm surprised I'm surprised it's holding up as well as it does, considering it's about 5 generations old now. No, 4. There we go. Alright, so that's every enemy in the game. Basically murdered by 4 turrets. Granted, you needed research, and the toxic tower isn't really doing much of anything. But I think we have a good handle on... So my videos aren't too long, and I take great care in making sure that, for the most part, I don't have to do a lot of editing in the content that I produce. So I generally try to explain things, and except for the videos that where I try to do overviews and really talk a lot about the ideas behind things, there's not a lot of editing or audio video stuff that I have to do a lot of. However, if I am going to talk over like edited video, those actually take a lot more time, mainly because if it's not something that's being actively recorded, like I'm actually doing it, then what happens is I have to gather footage for it. I have to edit the footage into something coherent. I have to create a script for what I want to actually talk about, try to make it interesting without me rambling too long. And I ramble a lot, so a lot of times I wind up recording something, and actually the last Orcs video I did talking about progression, I actually edited that video and redid it 3 times before I actually released the one that I did. And I mean, I went through the entire thing. I edited it, I recorded the voice lines, I rendered the video, which takes by itself like a couple hours. And after all that, I was like, I don't like it. I'm going to redo it so that it actually explains things better. And then, you know, after doing that 3 times, I was like, all right, I'm comfortable with this. I think it explains everything about as well as I expect to. And then I put it out. So yeah, stuff like that is time consuming, but mainly because I want it to be good and worthwhile so that when people hear it, they understand it, and it actually is beneficial as far as like possibly teaching somebody something useful. Like generally, like Let's Plays and streams are a little bit less time intensive to set up, as long as you understand how to set the equipment up in the first place. That actually took a lot of practice, especially the first few times, mainly because getting things like my mic set up and like figuring out the parameters for streaming itself, like the bit rates, and just to get all the settings up on the equipment and the streaming softwares, probably took some time to learn. But I mean, that's the case with everything. Like, you're not really going to be good at anything when you start it, and putting in the time to learn all the specific details will help out. But yeah, I do at some point want to try to get back to like trying to put out a video a day. I'm not gonna strangle myself about it right now, just because like I do have to worry about my own health, and that's something that I have become comfortable neglecting for far too long. And it would be better for me to put out some videos rather than to not be able to ever put out videos again. So I'd rather slow it down and put out something that I think is good and that people will enjoy, rather than overdo it. And that's something that like a lot of YouTubers will eventually like talk about. Like Jacksepticeye talked about it. I think Markiplier has too. Just where you got to take care of yourself, like, because you know everybody sees the content you put out, but they don't see like all of the stuff that you have to go through, you know, just to stay alive while you're doing that. And depending on how much of it you put out, like I could never see myself at this point working a full-time job and still trying to put out more than a single video a day, which I'm not even holding myself to now. I put out maybe 5 a week, if I'm lucky. Alright, so yeah, this doesn't seem like it's really going anywhere. These guys will not be able to push through just these 4 towers at all for maybe like aeons. The combination of stuns on the missiles and the sniper tower pretty much run things for maybe the first at least 200 waves. I can turn this up to whatever, and they're just never going to get anywhere. So that kind of makes sense. And I think because of that, there are probably going to be some situations where a couple of the other towers are going to have to be balanced around the fact that they just don't have access to the same upgrades. And the only thing that could really, like, you can't count on the damage to say that it'll improve those towers, because these towers have the exact same damage upgrade costs. I would probably argue that anything that has the ability to stun should not even have a damage upgrade. That should be the trade-off. You can trade off things that have the ability to stun for things that have the ability to do a lot of damage. That way, the missiles don't become the only turret that matters, or a tower. Because it looks like that could definitely be a thing. Alright, but this will like never end if I don't force it to. And it's actually getting pretty late for me. So I think I'll let this get to wave 210. I'll see if they actually manage to push beyond these front steps. And if not, then I'll abandon the game with my 1800 earned energy. Yeah, they're not getting anywhere. That is going to be it. That is super crazy. And you could probably achieve something close to that without actually purchasing as high a level of the stun ability, but yeah, I'm actually going to end it right now, TK. Because unfortunately, I need to get some sleep, and this is me. I actually only got about 2 hours of sleep last night, so I really should have went to sleep earlier today. So I'm not gonna make that same mistake again. I was a little sick before. I've already taken my meds so that I could get a sound bit of sleep today. But I will probably be streaming again sometime later this week. As I said, I will be getting together the last video for Orcs Must Die's runs with Elin and Brass, and then I'll be editing those to go up and then streaming while I'm working on the overview videos for them. So rather than getting daily videos, because the rendering time for those takes a significant amount of time, what would happen instead is you guys would get, no problem, you guys would get streams instead. So that'll be interesting, because I have a lot of games that I can actually play through on streams that I wouldn't normally just be able to put up on YouTube as easily without a ton of editing or just figuring out how to put them up. But yeah, it's always nice actually being able to talk with you guys too. It's something that I kind of missed from streaming a long time ago. So I want to get back into more of that. But either way, thanks to everybody who came out. Thanks to TK, thanks to K-Man, just everybody who was in here today. You guys are great, and definitely check this game out. I mean, that's playing around with like some really end game stuff, but part of the joys of a tower defense game is really figuring out how to optimize yourself to get to that point. It won't be just as easy as clicking a button, And if you want to support the devs in this game, check out the Kickstarter. You can get discounted copies of the game early by going through that, and you could even get like a pack for your friends if you have a few buddies that want to check out tower defense games too. But that's going to be it for me tonight. Thank you again for coming out, and until next time, as always, have a good one, folks.